Real quick. So my mic's working now. Let me fix yours. Let me fix yours now. This is error of technical difficult. So many technical difficulties here. Here we go. So one, two, three, and yours should be working now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. All right, we're back. Welcome back to the show. We're keeping it real. Goes right. Welcome back to Real Take Sports Talk live here on YouTube. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Andrew, how you doing? Tell the people.
I've been good, dude. How you been? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks, and lo and behold, I'm still in Michigan. Somehow, some way, I'm still in Michigan.
That's good, dude. It's good.
Help me, help me, help me.
How's the water?
Not great. Not great.
Oh.
Don't drink it. Don't drink it. It's true. It's true. Do not drink the water in Flint. It's not great. The Lions Stadium still sucks. Ford Field is trash. And the Lions still suck. But hopefully, Penei Sewell will change that. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to be talking about the NBA Finals. The Milwaukee Bucks just won their first NBA title in 50 years. Also going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers, huge update in the Aaron Rodgers situation. St. Louis Rams are suing. St. Louis is suing the Rams. So that's an interesting story from this week. NBA draft preview is also coming your way in this show. We got a lot to talk about. Also, we're going to be talking about Shohei Ohtani, the second best pitcher in baseball, according to many Mets fans, but by far the most effective player in either of the two major leagues in baseball. We're going to be talking about him much, much more coming up here on Real Take Sports Talk. Again, if you haven't already, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Cincy Edits, one of our biggest fans, Andrew, says, a lineman can't fix no receivers. Talking about the Detroit Lions, and damn, is that true?
I'll tell you what he can do, though. He can give your quarterback a little bit more time to make a mediocre receiver somewhat good.
I mean, I don't know if that's going to change the fact that their mediocre quarterback can't.
They had fucking Calvin. They had Matt Stafford throwing a Calvin Johnson, and they couldn't do shit. No.
Yeah, they're not doing. Look, I actually think what's his name? I think Goff is going to be better than people think he is, but he's not going to be as good as Lions fans probably think he is. If that makes sense.
He's a system QB. They got to the Super Bowl on defense and a run game. We all know
that's
that.
True. That's so true. So true. Big shout out to 2018 Todd Gurley. He's the only reason they got there. Andrew, but as good as 2018 Todd Gurley was, he pales in comparison to 2021 Giannis in the NBA Finals. The Milwaukee Bucks have won their first NBA championship in 50 years, their first title since 1971. This was obviously the one of the biggest matchup I think we've seen in a while, the most interesting matchup in the finals we've seen in a while. The Suns versus the Bucks. Neither of them are really count as super teams. Neither of them have that coming in, as neither of them really had at least two of the top 10 players in the game both on the same team. They were really dominated by one player. Like for the Suns, it was Devin Booker was the guy, and there was really no two. You could say maybe Chris Paul, but he was really good. But was he really great? Probably not. Giannis was basically the only superstar on his team. Chris Middleton was an amazing player, and that's no shine on him, but Milwaukee Bucks are the NBA champions. Andrew, what is your reaction to this? How did the Milwaukee Bucks kind of pull this off, especially coming down from an 0-2 deficit?
So initially, when you watched game one, Giannis was still, remember he had the injury in the Atlanta series. So the injury to the Atlanta series definitely hindered him. He missed the rest of that series when they closed out Atlanta in I think games 5 and 6. So he missed the rest of that series. Then when he started this series, you could tell game one he was trying to get his legs underneath him, but he really still wasn't 100%. Games 1 and 2, he was still trying to get his legs underneath him. Game 2, I think he just left it all out there, but he didn't get the help from his supporting cast. So there was that, plus Phoenix in the beginning. In the first two games, Phoenix dominated the series. You saw Phoenix was head and shoulders better than them. Then what ended up happening was the series came back to Milwaukee, and we've spoke about this before. home court advantage, especially when it comes to the playoffs, which is why the bubble playoffs, there could kind of be like an asterisk next to it, because there's no substitute for home court advantage, for having your home crowd, for having, thousands of people that are all rooting for you and rooting against the other team and everything like that. Tough place to play. Milwaukee, especially given as talented as they are, Milwaukee is a tough place to play. Like you saw, dude, Bakhtiari, they had the stars out, especially for the closeout game, dude. They had the stars out at that game. They had Kareem, he came out. They had the prophet Brandon Jennings came out for his Bucks and 6 prophecy being fulfilled. So that was cool.
Yeah. It was like the meeting of two prophecies. You had Suns in 4 and then Bucks in 6. Like the two greatest prophets, by the way, in basketball history. Continue.
So you had the prophecy was being fulfilled, and more or less what happened was I think Giannis took it to another gear, which is literally that's what the all-time greats do. And as much as people like to harp on what Giannis can't do, he can't shoot. The free throw shooting is obviously, that's bad.
That really hindered him. That really hindered him in the early part of that series. Yeah.
So sorry.
You got that Mets radio on.
Shut up. So what ended up happening was Giannis took it to another level, which is what all-time greats do. And even though a lot of people like to harp on the fact that he really can't shoot to save his life, free throws, jumpers, and everything like that, everyone, they hold their breath whenever he shoots. People that are rooting for him will hold their breath whenever he takes a shot. Teams that are rooting against him, they love that shit. So, but one thing that Giannis did was, and this is something that you didn't see in the first 3 series with this team playing, with Phoenix playing, was Giannis made DeAndre Ayton a non-factor. And that was the biggest thing going in, which was DeAndre Ayton in the Lakers series, he ate. Anthony Davis did nothing against DeAndre Ayton. Then in the following series against Denver, as good as Jokic was during the regular season, without Jamal Murray, Jokic wasn't able to make up for what Ayton was giving them, as well as what the contributions they were getting from guys like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Cameron Payne, the whole supporting cast. So Ayton basically made whatever effort Jokic put forth a non-factor. And then you get to the conference finals, where a lot of people could say if Paul George makes those free throws and everything like that, going up 3-2 instead of going down 3-2, the closeout game would have been in LA as opposed to them playing for their lives in Game 6. So there's that. But once again, DeAndre Ayton was big in that series. Remember, he had the game-winning alley-oop, the game-winning alley-oop. So DeAndre Ayton was big in that series. What Giannis did was Giannis attacked. Once Giannis got his footing in front of, underneath him, Giannis attacked. He went at DeAndre Ayton, got him in foul trouble, and then after that, you saw Phoenix didn't have a game plan. You always hear what you've seen from teams that have been successful against Giannis was you got to build that wall. Phoenix doesn't have the personnel to do that. They're a finesse team. They are able to spread the floor on offense and shoot the 3, but they're undersized. You look at the Toronto team that was able to beat them a couple years ago with Kawhi. They were building a wall with Pascal Siakam and Marcus Gasol, and that was only after Giannis would get past a guy like Kawhi, who's one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. So you were able to build that wall, and you saw Giannis, he would take offensive foul calls against them, or he would pass it out to his teammates, and he didn't have as good a team back then as he did now. Malcolm Brogdon, as good as Malcolm Brogdon and Eric Bledsoe might be, they are not Drew Holiday. Those two combined are not as good as Drew Holiday, and we saw it. Drew Holiday, his defensive contribution was big. He was able to shut down Devin Booker in Games 5 and in Game 6, holding him to, I think, he had one game where he held him 15 points or something.
Yeah. Devin Booker, I think it was 17, but still, it was Devin Booker didn't show up in one of those games. Yeah.
So, Giannis just took it to another level. He basically made DeAndre Ayton, who had been one of the most low-key driving forces behind Phoenix, besides Devin Booker scoring and Chris Paul's leadership, he took DeAndre Ayton out. And once you took DeAndre Ayton out, then look at the rebounding differential, dude. The rebounding differential got bigger in every single game. Once Milwaukee realized we could just throw it up there, get the offensive board, and we could just bully them. And that's what they did. And Milwaukee, they bullied their way to a championship.
Even in the first 2 games, that's what you just mentioned it. I think the biggest thing that resonated with me is even in the losing efforts in the first 2 games, Milwaukee absolutely dominated the boards in both of those games. Like especially offense. They got so many second chance points. Honestly, if you look at it from the shots that they missed, especially in Game 2, they shouldn't have been in this series, especially early on. They shouldn't have won. But the reason they were in those games, the reason that those games ended up being somewhat competitive was because of those second chance opportunities. And if they don't get those, they don't win this series. Like that was the story of the series. DeAndre Ayton, you're right, got bullied. That was the biggest matchup we previewed kind of going into this whole game or this series. That what happens when the irresistible force meets the immovable object, and guess what? The immovable object got pounced on its ass. Like, it was not even close. DeAndre Ayton didn't show up, and actually I shouldn't say DeAndre Ayton didn't show up. I think the bigger problem was that people like Giannis did show up. That the Milwaukee Bucks did exactly what on paper they were supposed to do, and that is play shut down, lockdown defense in the paint, and they did it. And they didn't worry as much about the perimeter. They focused on getting theirs. They dominated. They played bully ball, and they won. And that's exactly the formula they needed. They got some help along the way because I honestly think the Suns kind of ran out of gas, like as the finals kind of dragged on. We'll talk more about the Suns specifically in a minute, but I do think that's the overall like story of these finals and what that means for the Bucks. Like, I think that's what the driving force surrounding their win.
And my biggest takeaway, one of my biggest takeaways was that, I thought it was funny how many times was Bud fired during this playoff run? Like, how many times was it like, this is
he's been on the hot seat for years.
Bud had been fired, like 4 times during the playoff run, and yet they finished the job somehow. So,
because every time they were down, they just came back up. They made adjustments. He was what everyone thinks that Ty Lue is, like a mid-game, mid-series adjuster. That's what he is,
And that's something that, no disrespect to Monty Williams, he did have a good year. I think Monty Williams is a great coach, but he didn't adjust. And, when you see DeAndre Ayton can't handle, like your big is DeAndre Ayton, he can't handle the other team's best player. And, they're just giving it to him and letting him go to work, dropping 40, 26, and then 50. Like, he's having games like that, and you're not making any type of adjustments, like, let's double this guy or nothing like that. It's like, they can't. There was one play. I forgot which was it. It might have been game. I think it was the closeout game. Giannis dunked on like 3 dudes. Like, there was one play. That right there was the epitome of the series. It just showed that Phoenix was too small and Milwaukee was too big. That right there was, Giannis obviously had some all-time great plays too. He had, how I feel about Mikal Bridges, but let's be honest, dude. How many times did Mikal Bridges get his shit thrown? I'm talking like pinned against the backboard this series. That man had to have gotten blocked like 6 times by Giannis alone.
Oh yeah, he was completely dominated.
So that was my biggest takeaway. My biggest takeaway was Bud was able to make adjustments. Monty Williams was not able to make adjustments. And Giannis, listen, as much as people want to hate on the guy, he can't shoot. He's not the best ball handler. He's not the best shooter. His game is not, it's very unorthodox. It's a power game and nothing like that. Listen, for a guy who doesn't have much skill, dropping 50 in a closeout game and winning finals MVP, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think personally it's great for his legacy, and we'll talk about that in a second. But kind of going off of this conversation, we kind of talked about it earlier. We talked about the Bucks specifically did right, but what did at what point did the Suns go wrong? Because for me, I think one thing I noticed, I don't think it was necessarily the coaching. I think the coaching was actually fine. I do think, though, like we mentioned, Devin Booker had that I think was like a 15 or 17 point performance. He had an underwhelming performance in one of the games. It didn't look like when it was time to show up. And I'm not saying Devin Booker didn't show up. I think the Suns were just out of gas. That's what it looked like to me down the stretch of the series. They expended a lot, getting to this point. They expended a lot in the first 2 games. And, that really close, I think it was game 3 or 4. It was a really close last second shot they ended up missing. I think they, at a certain point, they just didn't have that much in them. And I don't think it was so much a thing of coaching, because you look at the way Monty Williams was coached. I don't think it was on him, because Monty Williams, the entire year, he's been the guy who makes the adjustments. He's been the guy who gets the most out of his players. I think this was more of a problem of execution. And we mentioned, like, all respected DeAndre Ayton. Like, this is in no way disrespecting DeAndre Ayton. He proved why he was a top three, for number one overall, but why he kind of deserved to be up in that mantle. He kind of proved that this in these playoff runs, because throughout the entire Western Conference playoffs, he was amazing. He was great. He got to the finals, and yeah, he folded against arguably the best defender in the game, but that's not but that's not a knock. It shouldn't be a knock on him, at least what I think. But that's what I think went wrong for the Suns specifically. They ran out of gas, and they just got dominated by Giannis, who would not be denied.
I mean, dude, just look at this whole playoff run. Look at all the bigs that they went up against. Like, okay, KD, Brooklyn doesn't really have a big. Brooklyn doesn't really have a big like that. But look at all
they
the
play
bigs.
Small ball.
Yeah. But look at all the exactly, and you saw how that turned out for them, right? Look at all the bigs that went up against. Like, this is why I don't disrespect DeAndre Ayton at all, because look at all the bigs that went up against Giannis that Giannis just, completely just bullied, dude. I mean, Bam Adebayo is one of the best young big men in the entire league. Non-factor. And they built the wall. By the way, that team built a wall against Giannis, and it didn't matter. Then they went up against Clint Capella, dude. Clint Capella was huge. As much as Trae Young was good on the offensive end, and they got contributions from Herter in that series, like on their way to the Eastern Conference Finals, dude. Capella was huge for them, anchoring the defense, as a lob threat. He was, getting rebounds, blocking shots, timely shots against Giannis, dude. Like, once again, Giannis made him a non-factor. And I think the biggest thing is just, when you look at Giannis's mentality, this is like a big thing that flies under the radar. People talk about how Russell Westbrook is like, he goes 100%, goes hard every single play. He, gives it his all. Giannis is basically like a 7-foot Russell Westbrook in that, you see him. Giannis is blocking the shot on one end, dude, and then he's outrunning guards on the other end to catch a lob.
I mean, as far as athleticism wise, maybe, yeah, I see that comparison, but I don't think they're a similar type of player.
No, Giannis is a completely different player. Russ is more of a perimeter player because he's a guard, that he gets to the rim. Giannis is more of I don't know, what is he? He's a freak. Like, that's what they call him, freak.
Because he's the Greek freak. I think Cincy kind of said it right in the comments. Giannis ordered a 50-piece McNugget Chick-fil-A after the game, so I respect him. And look, he ordered 50-piece McNuggets. He also ordered, I think, what he have in the close that game, didn't he have 50 points or something?
He dropped 50.
He had 50.
He had 50, 14, and he had 5 blocks or something.
He completely dominated. That's when he closed it out exactly how someone in his position you would expect him to close out. So let's kind of talk about this, because this is the crux of the entire discussion I want to have today. We heard for years that Giannis is great. Giannis is a Greek freak. Giannis he might be the best pound for pound player in the entire NBA. We've heard this for years, and the biggest knock on him has been, well, he can't do it alone. He can't win alone. He can't win in Milwaukee. He can't win the big one by himself. And you know what Giannis did, Andrew? He went out there. Yeah, he had Chris Middleton. Yeah, he had Drew Holiday. Yeah, he had some ballers with him, but he didn't have that solid number two. He didn't have the Anthony Davis to his LeBron. He didn't have the Paul George to his Kawhi Leonard. But he didn't need it, because at the end of the day, when his team needed him, to show up big, he finally was able to get over that hump, say fuck you to the naysayers, and he won, and he dominated. So what does this win, and the way in which he won, getting the finals MVP, having that amazing Game 6 to close it out, what does this win, this championship, not only mean for Milwaukee, but specifically for Giannis and his legacy moving forward?
So what this means for Giannis is that it's big for him, because it goes against the conventional, people saying, in order to win, we entered the era, I want to say around 2000, the last decade, we entered that era where, it was all about super teams. It was all about first it was the LeBron Miami Heat teams. Then it was even though Golden State built it organically, they were kind of like a fringe super team. And then they became a fucking juggernaut when they added KD. Then you had, what was it? LeBron. And then you kind of had, I'm not going to call the Toronto Raptors a super team of sorts, even though, Lowry was a multiple time All-Star. They did have, if you just look at how many all defensive teams were on that team alone, defense won that championship. Like defense won them that championship to go along with the fact that Golden State was injured. And then when you look at last year, obviously it was the bubble year. LeBron did win, but look at how many guys on that roster 15 years from now, how many of those names of those guys on that roster are going to be Hall of Famers? Just think about that, dude. Like, as much as people want to harp like Dwight Howard and all that stuff, Dwight Howard's going to get in the Hall of Fame, by the way. As much as people want to laugh at Dwight Howard, he's getting in. As much as people want to laugh at someone like Rondo's probably going to get in the Hall of Fame, dude. Like, Anthony Davis is going to be a Hall of Famer. So when it's all said and done, that team's going to have 4 or 5 Hall of Famers that were on that roster 15 years from now. So that team, you could say, you know, without context, that team was kind of a super team. The thing that was cool about this was when Giannis signed his extension before the year, people were like, oh, so he just doesn't want to win. They were like, you know, he's more about the money. He's more about, you know, he doesn't want to win. And that's what I loved about what he said in his post-game press conference when he was like, I could have taken the easy way out. You know, he was like, but this way is the harder way. He's like, and I'm fucking glad we did it this way. I love that for him because that shows that, A, he's not going to back down from the challenge. And that also shows something that a lot of players lack today, which is loyalty, where he basically told Milwaukee when he put pen to paper that I'm going to give you this, like, I am dedicated to this organization. You are the team that took the chance on me. When I was that 6'9", 190-something pound kid out of Greece that you drafted with the 15th overall pick, basically this big, giant, athletic ball of clay that you could mold however you want. You took a chance on that kid. He goes, and I'm going to repay you. And he did. And I love that for Giannis. I love the fact and I loved how he threw the shade at the guys like LeBron and KD. I love how he threw shade at those guys because it just goes to show that those guys might have more skill than him. But maybe they don't have as much heart as him. And he showed, you know, you could tell he had the heart, and you can't hate Giannis, dude. Giannis is just one of those guys. You can't hate Giannis, dude. He's a family man, plays the game right. As limited as he is as a basketball player, this is my biggest thing, dude. As limited as Giannis is as a basketball player, with not being able to shoot, really not being the best ball handler and all that stuff, the fact that the dude could still go out and give you 50 in an NBA Finals closeout game, basically put up historic numbers and make it look easy, I don't give a fuck if he can't shoot. I'll take that any day of the week. And the heart that he plays with, hell yeah.
Even when he signed that contract, there was this weird sense of like we were all cynical about it, like even including myself, and I was wrong. I was dead wrong about it because like we were all kind of cynical, like. And it's this weird mentality I think we've had because of these super teams that have popped up, whether it be the LeBron James' multiple super teams or the Warriors or KD going to all these different places, teaming up with all his buddies and whatnot. Like, there's this weird sense of us being cynical when a player decides to do something like this. Like, we should, like, instead of reacting like, okay, this guy wants to go out there and do it alone, our instant reaction is, oh, this idiot, he doesn't want to win because he doesn't want to like join like 5 other like Hall of Famers, right? And he doesn't want to like, you know, take an easy path to a title. And so there's a bit of truth in there, right? There's a bit of truth in there, like, but at the same time, I do think we've been conditioned for so long to think that if someone's somehow not serious about winning, if they have some loyalty to their team, someone's not serious about winning if they don't, take the immediate way to get a championship, like since he just said in the chat, aka Rondo. But you know, there's this weird sense, like, oh, this buffoon, this idiot. But Giannis proved that wrong because look, like. If you want to say like the Toronto team wasn't a super team, right? I think you could make the argument that it wasn't, right? And actually, it wasn't a super team, but it was still like I think that was still
That was the best defensive team of that decade. By the way,
it was the best defensive team. Like, but
every team of that decade, dude, no team compares defense. That was the best.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm well aware, but like it's these like anomalies in sports that happen, right? But like even that, like the Pistons winning in that one year, or the Kings making it like the one year, like there's these weird anomalies that happen in sports that never happen again. But this is something that I think can have sustained success. I think Giannis has the ability to actually win or get to another finals fairly quick. He could do it next year because, like, especially going off of what he did this year and the confidence he'll have now. I think like he's not the type of player I think who's gonna have like this championship hangover that we see. He's the type of player that's gonna be even more motivated to win next year. And What do they need to change? Probably absolutely nothing. Like this team, like like they have to. I think they have to. They might have a contract situation with Middleton, I believe, or don't quote me on that. But they have like they are, I think, set up to win with Giannis because what they've proven is they can win with Giannis as their central piece and some very good to okay to good, like above average players around him. And that's a big deal. You don't see that a lot. Even LeBron James, for as great as he is, as great as LeBron James is and was, him by himself could only get you so far. And I speak as a Cavs fan knowing that. He could get you so far, but this honestly is I think one of the defining stories of the decade as far as NBA championship wins like and runs. Like this is like I think not at the same level but like right up there with Dirk in 2011 as far as like single player like having like just dominating the series and leading his team almost by himself. And again, Middleton did great. Jrue Holiday did great. I am not like trying to downplay them, but Giannis was the reason that they were there, and Giannis was the reason they won. It doesn't happen without him, and I do think that we're gonna look back at this championship in like 10 years as holy shit, this was amazing. Yeah.
Nah, dude, I agree. You put it perfectly, and I also think with this championship, first now, not counting last year's championship, dude, but between Toronto's championship at the end of last decade and then this championship, I think we're kind of entering the era of like, I'm not going to say the super team era is dead, but those two teams kind of prove that you don't necessarily need all the big names on one team to win a chip. You don't necessarily need it. They showed, look at the two teams we had in the finals, dude. You can build a team organically that's good enough to come out of the conference and compete for a championship, and they proved it. Like both these teams proved it, dude. Every single one, with the exception of like obviously the Jay Crowders were added later on. Those guys were added, but like the core, dude, like the core four, and obviously Chris Paul was huge, but like, dude, the core four in Phoenix, dude, was Devin Booker. You got Mikal Bridges. You got DeAndre Ayton, and I don't want to. I'm not gonna call him like a core player, but I guess Cam Johnson. He is. You know what I'm saying?
He's more of a. I feel like he's more of a role player right now.
He's more of a role player, but like you could tell,
the energy off the bench is great.
Yeah, he's very big within their rotation though. So those guys were like the core, and then you sprinkle in the guys, the Cameron Paynes, like the spark guys, and everything like that. Milwaukee was the same deal, dude. Chris Middleton, Giannis. Those were like the core dudes. They bought in Brook. I mean, I'm not gonna call Brook Lopez a core dude, but he's been there.
He played a big role in the series though too.
He's been there for a minute. You got who else did they bring in? Dante didn't even play, dude. Dante didn't even play the entire playoffs. Dante is like their third option. Like, and he didn't even play the whole, which allowed Jrue Holiday and guys like Pat Connaughton to step up, which was huge. So the biggest thing I think was that
Bobby Portis,
Bobby, dude, Psycho Bobby. We missed him in New York, dude. We love Psycho Bobby in New York, but it just showed, dude. Like, I think we're entering the era where the super team era, I'm not going to say it's dead, but I think the last two real champions, we don't count last year's, the last two real champions were not super teams. So I think it's proving that you can build a team organically that can sustain success long term and, win championships.
That is interesting
against these super teams.
That is interesting because like we've seen it happen. Like I talked about, it's anomaly kind of in basketball or in the NBA. Like these like these defensive oriented teams with maybe one superstar winning. It's an anomaly, but like you're right. We've seen 2 of the past 3 years. Who's won the championship? The Toronto Raptors, led by Kawhi Leonard and some very good players, and some players who have the potential to be superstars, like Pascal Siakam and possibly Chris Van Vliet one day. But on the other hand, like now you have like Giannis winning like just 2 years later. I think you might be right. I'm not, and I agree with you. I'm not saying like the super team era is dead because look, if Damian Lillard because
Oh, yeah,
Lakers fans
you put
love to
him on
talk.
Philly. Oh, you
If
put
you put
Damian
him on
Lillard
Philly, you
Philly.
put him on again, it's not going to happen. But you put him on the Lakers, that's an OP team. You can't deny that. No one can deny that, right? That's an OP team, and like if that's a team that I think kind of circumvents that, like when you have so much talent, like the Golden State Warriors with KD, that's just too much like concentration of talent. But I do think we have a chance, and I think like we've seen people like Donovan Mitchell commit to Utah long term. We've seen, obviously Devin Booker committed to Phoenix long term. Luka is about to commit to Dallas long term, or at least that's the indication that's coming out from him and his camp.
They got to find a team gullible enough to take Porzingis first, though.
Well, it's probably going to be the
Cavs.
Cavs.
That Sacramento Kings. I'll tell you what, the Sacramento Kings, they might still be the Kings. They might take them off there. They might take them off his hands.
There's like this. I think the most likely place is the Cavs, actually, but that's a story for another day. I do think though we are seeing more players kind of commit to their teams, and I like that division of talent. I do like that because it's as much as like Max Kellerman and Stephen A. want to say, nobody wants to go to Cleveland for an NBA Finals. Nobody wants to go to Utah. Like as much as they like to say that, and they want to go to the bigger markets, and they want to push these bigger markets on us, as much as they want to do that, it's better for basketball, and it's better for basketball fans to have talent concentrated everywhere, or as evenly as possible, because it makes the games better. It makes the game better, more compelling.
We didn't know who the hell was going to, after the first round ended.
It was so great.
We didn't know who the hell was going to win. I love that. These finals were the most exciting because we didn't know who the fuck was going to win.
It was amazing. It was amazing, and we need more of it. Parity is good for the game. Let's get to some super chats here, or not super chats. We don't have that yet. We will soon one day. But let's get to some chats here. Franklin the Turtle in the Hall of Fame. Oh, he's talking about Rondo. That's funny. He said, when the last pick of the draft gets a championship in his first year. Yeah. Seattle Kraken white jerseys are gorgeous. They are. Big shout out to the Kraken who just had their expansion draft, by the way. Since he just said, I'm offended.
Seattle deserves a team.
Yeah. Does my mic not sound right?
No. Your mic sounds fine. How's mine?
Hold up. Okay, my mic is fine. I don't know what Cincy was talking about. There's someone in the chat that said that. Anyway, last thing I want to get to, Andrew, about these just NBA finals is Chris Paul. So, Chris Paul, we talked about this. Excuse me. So, Chris Paul took 16 years. It took 16 years for Chris Paul to finally get to an NBA Finals. He got there this year. They won. They were up 2-0. Everyone was very excited to see Chris Paul win, and it didn't end up happening. What does this mean? That Chris Paul didn't win his championship this year. What does it mean for his legacy? Does it impact his legacy in any way, either negative or positive?
I don't think it necessarily can impact it negatively, considering the fact he'd never been there. You know what I mean? This was his first time there, and the biggest thing, like one of the biggest knocks on him, was he couldn't even get to the chip. Well, now he finally got to the chip. He couldn't finish it. There were a lot of guys that got to the chip in the 90s, 80s that just couldn't finish it. Chris Paul, his career's not over yet. Chris Paul could come back and win it next year, depending on whether he goes back to Phoenix or whether he signs elsewhere. We don't know, so the jury's still out on him. I don't think this could possibly hurt Chris Paul's legacy. It can only help, considering the fact he'd never been there before.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the fact that he got there, the fact that Chris Paul got there, it was never about I don't think it was ever about actually even winning the championship. It was about getting that opportunity to get there and try. That's what it was always about, I think, for Chris Paul. It's always about for fans. They wanted to see Chris Paul in an NBA Finals. And whether he won or lost, that was up to his team. That was up to him at the end of the day, and then what happened, right? But I think getting to see him compete and in that setting was so great, because it added to the drama of the NBA Finals. Also, you saw him, at least he can say, like, when he retires, when he eventually goes into the Hall of Fame, because he will be a Hall of Famer. When he eventually goes into the Hall of Fame, he can say that I did it. I got to the finals. It didn't happen, but I have no reservations because I got there. We tried our best, and we didn't get, and it didn't happen, because not everyone wins a championship. Not everyone. There are so many great players, Hall of Fame, all-time great players who don't win a championship. Charles Barkley, one of them.
How many guys were on the Dream Team? How many members of the Dream Team didn't win a chip?
Thank you. Exactly. So I don't even think it doesn't hurt his legacy. I think the fact that he got there, that helped his legacy so much because there's so many haters. Like the basketball world is full of haters. There's so many haters on Chris Paul. They unjustifiably hate on him, hate on his game, hate on his personality. And it's weird because he's actually, like, if you look at it, he's one of those players like you want to root for because like he gives it all for his team. Every time these types of things happen, like every time his team gets close, he eventually gets injured because he's the one giving it his all every time. He makes people around him better. That has been the story about him throughout his entire career. He always makes the people around him better. He makes the teams around him better. Look what he did to the Suns this year. He is the offseason acquisition of the year last year, period. There's no question about it. I'm glad he got the MVP votes because he deserved it. But Chris Paul's legacy for having played in these finals, I think has gotten immensely larger and more impactful than it was before he got there. And I'm glad to see it. Just because he didn't win is not a knock on his legacy. I think that's a terrible way to judge, all players. I don't think that's a good way to judge all players, right? When you're making comparisons about all-time greats, like who's better, then that's when you bring that in. But to knock someone who especially where he is at his career now, I think for people to do that, it's out of pocket.
I agree. I mean, I don't have much to say. I mean, Chris Paul, he's been an ambassador.
That's a first.
I mean, dude, he's been an ambassador to the game for so long and everything. As much as a lot of people wanted to see him win, that one team's got to win, one team's got to lose. Listen, as much as a lot of people might not be happy that Chris Paul won, or didn't win and everything like that, you got to be happy for Giannis, dude. I mean, fucking A, dude. How many times was this dude the 1 seed and got knocked out? Like, how many times is it supposed to be? It was supposed to be this guy's year. And listen, if we weren't bashing, because now people want to bash Chris Paul, someone's got to get bashed. If they weren't bashing Chris Paul for, what I'm saying? Like, if Chris Paul was getting praise right now, guess who'd be getting bashed? Giannis. So,
yeah, absolutely. Let's get to the chat real quick. I meant the other guy's mic. Okay, he's talking about your mic. I don't know. I think I'm hearing you perfectly. Oh, he said it's fine now. So you're fine. Ryan Woodridge asks, "Hi, bro. What is your thoughts on Braun Strowman joining AEW?" I love how I get so many wrestling questions in the chat. Real quickly, I will answer that. But this is a sports talk show, but wrestling technically is a sport. Anyway, Braun Strowman joining AEW. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think AEW should sign him. It's too much money, they don't need another giant. I think you build on the giants you have there, and you let him go. You let him do his thing, wherever he's going to go, whether it's MLW or the Indies or back in WWE. I think he's better off there. They don't need him, especially since they just signed Bryan and they might sign Punk. So, is Chris Paul going to the LA Lakers next year? That's an interesting question. Andrew, is Chris Paul going to the LA Lakers next year?
I don't see. I mean, how does he get there? Do they shed a bunch of players? Like, because think about it, dude. Isn't Dame apparently?
Bye-bye, Kuz. Bye-bye, Kuz.
Kuz.
That's going to happen. They're going to get rid of Kuzma. They're going to get rid of Kuzma.
How is Kyle Kuzma good enough how is Kyle Kuzma somehow one day he's good enough to get you a return of Damian Lillard, but then another day he's the worst player in the league? That doesn't make any sense to me. Does Chris Paul join the Lakers? I mean, he could. I don't see how they get any farther with Chris Paul. I don't see how the Lakers get any farther with Chris Paul than without him, honestly. Think about it, dude. As much as Chris Paul's a big name, but at the end of the day, dude, like at this point in their careers, those guys, they're up there in age, dude. LeBron, Chris Paul, they're up there in age, man. Like D-Wade's gone. Like we're at the point now where their names are bigger than their games. And I'm not saying they're incapable of it. Like, I'm not saying they're incapable of performing, but Phoenix, dude, Phoenix is a younger team. Phoenix, look at all these up and coming younger teams, dude. You got Phoenix, you got Denver, you got Utah. Like, those are all young teams that are, only going to keep getting better. They're on the come up. The older teams can't really compete with them. I don't see how Chris Paul joining the Lakers would be beneficial for himself or even for the Lakers. He's better off just staying in Phoenix, seeing if they could add maybe another piece and trying to run it back. That's his best bet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how he gets out of his contract. First of all, and like if he was a free agent, I could see him maybe taking like the veteran minimum to go play with his best friend LeBron James. Because I don't think for Chris Paul at this point it's about money. I think it's more so about getting a title. But I think he's built something there in Phoenix, and they have a chance. Like it's not like they could run it back very well. They could very well run it back. This is a young team. It's only going to get better, and Devin Booker's only going to get hungrier. These Cam Johnson, Kel Bridges, all these guys, they're only going to get better. And having weathered this storm, I do think will kind of make that diamond out of the rough in these guys, and really toughen them up for a potential next run. But going to the Lakers, it makes sense when you glance at it, right? Because LeBron and Chris Paul are very close. Obviously, they're best friends, but there's no realistic way of it happening. Honestly,
it looks good on paper. I mean, it looks really good on paper. The names, like the big names, all look good together. But it's the same thing with like when you had 2004, when you had that Lakers super team where you had Shaq, Kobe, and then you had a really old Gary Payton and a really old Karl Malone. Like, it looks good on paper. Does it get the job done? I don't think so. I really don't know how the Lakers could possibly get any better. Like, unless the Lakers add a guy like Devin Booker, like they got to add young guys. They can't. The Lakers are not getting any younger. LeBron's not getting any younger. Adding a guy who's aging like Chris Paul, you even saw in the finals, dude. He kind of fizzled out in the finals, like when it came down to it. So I don't know if adding Chris Paul would necessarily help the Lakers. I don't even know if Chris Paul, like, if he does that, that would just be to take the same route LeBron took, which is go be in movies, go do all that other stuff. But if it's about basketball, his best bet would just be stay in Phoenix, let Phoenix add maybe another piece or two and try to run it back.
Yeah, agreed. What quarterback will start if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back? We will get to that later in the show. Be sure to stick around. And hey, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Let's move on and talk about the NFL. Andrew, the NFL comes back in less than 3 weeks. Actually, I'm lying. In less than 2 weeks, the NFL is back. Football is coming home, baby. Real football, American football is coming home.
Two-tone blue. The boys are two-tone blue. They'll be back, dude.
We love that.
Give me anxiety every fucking Sunday. I don't give a fuck that we have Julio. Their team's still going to give me anxiety. They always do.
As long as Ryan Tannehill's your quarterback, you're going to have anxiety.
Oh, dude. As good as the defense, as improved as the defense is going to be, we're still going to give up like 25 points a game. As good as the defense, we're better this year. And we're still going to give up 25 again. I can already see it, dude. Caleb Farley might not even play till fucking midway through the season, dude.
It's a mess. Anyway, let's talk about it. Let's get to one interesting story from this offseason that I don't think has been highlighted at all. The city of St. Louis is suing an NFL team, that being the now Los Angeles Rams, who moved out of St. Louis in 2016. The newest developments coming in between this lawsuit between the city of St. Louis and Rams owner Stan Kroenke and there's buzz that there could be a bit of a settlement coming soon. The St. Louis Regional Convention and Sports Complex Authority and the city of St. Louis filed a lawsuit in 2017 regarding the 2016 relocation. The lawsuit says that the NFL and the Rams broke their own policy in moving the team and broke their lease as well. So there's a lot to be figured out here. It is also reported that the Rams could be on the hook to pay the city of St. Louis a whopping $1 billion in restitution for their move to Los Angeles. So this could end up being a very costly move for Stan Kroenke and the NFL. Andrew, what do you think about this lawsuit, that we haven't heard a lot of? What do you think about the city of St. Louis suing the Rams and potentially getting this big settlement from it?
You know what? I hope they do. I hope they get the money. And you know what I hope they do with that money? I hope they take all the damn money that Jim Laurinaitis would have made had that team not been trashed for so long, and they give him his cut. Because he sat through all those years of mediocrity and bullshit. And, as good as he was, he didn't get bonuses for playing in playoff games. He didn't get none of that stuff. I think the city of St. Louis...
Forget Laurinaitis. What about Steve Jackson?
There's a bunch of them, dude. Jackson, that team... Basically, I blame the Rams organization for why Sam Bradford never became the stud he was supposed to be. I blame them. There's a lot of people they owe. And as bad as the St. Louis Rams have been, I get it. They won a Super Bowl in the 90s. I get they were the greatest show on turf when they had Kurt Warner. I get all that stuff, okay? But after that, they were trash, and they had not been good since. They moved to L.A., they draft Jared Goff, and next thing you know, they're a Super Bowl team, what, two years later? But that's beside the point. The point was the city of St. Louis, as much as I hate the St. Louis Cardinals, the city of St. Louis had been through so many losing seasons, and the fact that they broke that lease and they did wrong by so many players and people, they deserve that restitution from the Rams organization.
Absolutely. They definitely deserve that restitution. I think that the city of St. Louis, if the Rams did break the lease, they did break the agreement. Hell yeah, sue them.
Holders. Think about the season ticket holders.
Think about the season ticket holders, the investors, everyone who screwed up, the fans, and it speaks to this disconnect, this weird disconnect between the Aaron Rodgers actually pointed this out. It's like these teams are run as corporations. They're so disconnected from the cities they represent, the communities they represent. They don't care. Like let's not kid ourselves. Stan Kroenke doesn't care about the city of Los Angeles. Stan Kroenke didn't care about the city of St. Louis. He didn't care about the community. No, none of these owners do, if we're being quite frank about it. None of these owners really care about the communities they allegedly represent. They care about their bottom line. That's why you see teams like the Los Angeles Rams or the St. Louis Rams move to Los Angeles. That's why you see people like the organizations like the Chargers. The Chargers, who have no fans in Los Angeles, who are playing second fiddle to the Rams in their stadium, leave a place where they actually had fans in San Diego and go to LA and play in front of the opposing team's fans every single game. It doesn't make any sense. They only care about the money. That's all they ever care about, and that is exactly why I hope this lawsuit is successful for the city of St. Louis. I think every real sports fan is rooting for the city of St. Louis in this. Also because even NFL fans, nobody likes Stan Kroenke. Nobody likes Stan Kroenke at all. Fuck Stan Kroenke, by the way. I do want to talk about...
Dude, and fuck the Rams, dude. Kevin Dyson was 1 yard short. 1 yard.
1 yard short from. Oh, that's so sad. That's so sad.
It's one of the saddest endings to a Super Bowl I've ever seen. It might not be sad to the people.
It is. No. It is legitimately. I don't even think if you're a Titans, like, dude, 1 yard. It's unimaginable. It's actually unimaginable.
That was voted like one of the top 3 saddest endings to a Super Bowl ever.
Dude, like, I felt for you. I wasn't even, like, alive, and I felt for you. Yeah.
The picture of Dyson, they have the picture, and they literally show he's 1 yard short. That picture by itself is just sad.
He reached, man. He reached as far as he could. Let's kind of shift gears talking about this, though. This $1 billion, this potential $1 billion restitution that the city of St. Louis could receive from the Rams and the NFL, this is a considerable amount of money. Even if you're moving, right? This is a considerable amount of money for the Rams to have to pay. Do you think that the amount of money that they might be on the hook for could keep teams from in the future from considering or threatening moving from their home cities? Like, do you think this could be, if it does happen, do you think it could be a precedent set that could kind of hurt that happening in the future?
I think so. I think it will be, because there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of logistics to it. You have to factor in the season ticket holders. You have to factor in, like you said, the investors. You have to factor in all of the fans. You have to factor in all those people. So out of fear of losing those people by trying to move to another place who might already have a fan base. Think about that. They might already have a fan base. That is something that I think is going to, a lot of teams might start thinking twice about just picking up and leaving. I do think that will be a legitimate concern in the future.
Absolutely, and it should be. Like, these owners who threaten to leave, like the Suns owner. Remember the Suns owner? He threatened to leave Phoenix. We had the Oakland A's owner is now threatening to leave Oakland if he doesn't get a new stadium. It's the same reason not Al Davis, whatever his son's name is. It's the same reason he left Oakland. These teams, they just think they can move wherever they want. They think they can do whatever they want, as if the team and the city have no connection. When they have these dedicated fans who pay their hard-earned money to keep these franchises afloat. They think they have the right to just, well, what's good for me and me making money? I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to move to Las Vegas. I'm going to move wherever I don't have fans. Like, there's talk about potentially moving to Mexico City. There's talk about a team potentially moving to Toronto. Like, these things have happened for a long time. It's been used as leverage for too long. For too long, they've been trying to, do this to get more money from the city. You know where that money comes from, Andrew? Our pockets. It comes from tax collected money. Why the hell is my taxpayer money going to pay for a billionaire stadium? That makes no sense. And it's not even a political thing, dude. Anyone who has worked a day in their life would agree with that. There's no way that the city should be on the hook for that. Like you have money to give these NFL stadiums. You don't have money to help poor people, help homeless people. Like fuck out of here with that. No, I don't. It's completely backwards. They already have the money. If you want to invest in an NFL team, there should be like some sort of guideline. Okay, you've invested this much. You want a stadium? Invest in your own stadium. Like, you have the money for it, dude. You have all these billions upon billions of dollars. The city should not be on the hook unless there's an express written consent that team will not move for 50 years. That has to be very, very, very clear in there, and there's no exceptions to it whatsoever. It's a travesty every time we see it, and I said it once, I will say it again. The city of St. Louis better get $1 billion or even more money out of this to prevent other teams like the Oakland A's, like the Phoenix Suns, from trying this bullshit again. Because I think fans are sick of it. Fans are really sick of it, dude. We're trying to expand our growth. We're if you're a sports team, you're trying to expand your growth. Baseball, you're trying to expand the amount of fans. By moving a team, especially a baseball team, you know how many fans are getting alienated from the sport because of that? Those Oakland A fans, yeah, some of them might, if they're diehard baseball fans, some of them might still watch baseball, but most of them are just going to be like, dude, I broke my heart. I'm done. It's like the ball.
They'll just go. How many fucking teams they got in California, dude? They'll just go pick one of the other 6 fucking teams they got.
Oh yeah. You get the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim are right there. You got the Dodgers. You got better teams actually.
The Giants, the Padres. You got.
Wow, you got so many better teams actually than the
five teams out there you could pick from.
Actually, maybe the Oakland A's should move. Maybe they're they're fifth fiddle in that entire state. But
hey man, Oklahoma City or Nashville. Nashville could use a baseball team.
That's true. That's true. I think Baltimore could probably use a baseball team too.
Baltimore
could use a real baseball team. Yeah, Baltimore could use a real baseball team. Hey, but you know who has a real baseball team? The Nats. Even though we might get Chris Bryant though. Either way, yes. Good luck to the city of St. Louis. I think we're both kind of in agreement on that. Let's move on, Andrew, and talk about arguably the best player in Major League Baseball today, an angel sent from heaven, literally, to potentially save the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim's future. Shohei Ohtani is a pitcher, an outfielder, a jack of all trades, some may say. 34 home runs, 74 RBI, a 274 batting average, and he just happens to have a winning record as a pitcher. This dude can literally do it all. He might actually be the best all-around player in baseball. He definitely is right now. Andrew, tell us about Shohei Ohtani. Tell what makes him so great and so dynamic, and what could this mean for not only his future, but the future of the Angels?
I have mixed feelings about this one because I really do love Shohei. How can you not? The dude hits fucking 450-foot home runs. He throws 97. He's kind of intimidating. You ever seen that dude with when he's sleeveless, dude? That dude's fucking yoked. He don't even look at dude. He's fucking yoked. It just is a shame because I just feel like the Angel organization, as much talent as they have, they just are not meant to win anything, dude. They're 10.5 games back in that division. They're not catching Houston. They're not catching Houston. They're not going to catch Oakland. They're not going to catch any of those teams out there, dude. So the problem is as much as I love Shohei, we might never get a chance to actually see Shohei play in the playoffs unless he leaves the Angels because his team around him isn't, they're not good. And it's not a knock on him. He does everything he can, but I think it gets to a point sometimes where think about they've wasted Mike Trout, dude. Come on, Mike Trout, one of the best baseball players of this generation, dude. You got two of the best baseball players of this generation on one team, and they're not going to sniff the playoffs. So that's the only thing I have is I love Shohei. Dude's probably going to hit 45, maybe even get to 50 home runs this year. I'm going to maybe cap it at like 45 or something like that, easily over 100 RBIs. But it's just a shame if we get a talent like this, like those dudes they always got in Colorado, dude, like the Nolan Arenados, the Trevor Stories, guys like that, where, they're hitting fucking 45, 50 home runs a year, but it doesn't matter because the team sucks and they're finishing 20 games behind the first place team in the division. So
I just want to take it a different route maybe because the Angels are obviously I don't know what's going on. They're cursed. They got Mike Trout. They have arguably Mike Trout the greatest player.
They had the Uptons. They
that whole organization. I don't know what's going on there. But as far as Shohei Ohtani and how historic this is, people I think it's important to put it into perspective how historic this is to see someone who plays multiple positions that he does doing all of this. I think it's very important to kind of put that into perspective. Andrew, in your opinion, how historic is it to just see someone dominate almost all facets of the game like Shohei Ohtani does?
So I think it shows, too, that baseball as a whole is changing. Because when you think about it, a lot of these players, like when they come up, once they hit a certain age, they're kind of taught like you got to specialize. So pitchers are taught specialize, don't worry about hitting. Fielders are taught don't even worry about just get in the cage, take your swings, take a hit off the tee, do all work on your fielding, glove work, footwork, all that other stuff. And it's showing, I guess, a guy like Shohei Ohtani, and the fact that he's been so durable too, which is huge. It's showing that there is a future potentially for two-way players, guys that can go out there and pitch for you, and then a guy that you can put in the lineup every other day, and he can hit. It's just showing how, we talk about how sports evolve and everything like that. And this just goes to show, like I said, or not like I've said, but like people have said, we're all in agreement with this, that we haven't seen anything like this since Babe Ruth. And even then, there's a reason why Babe Ruth is fucking one of he's arguably the best player to ever play. It's because he did stuff like this. And then we've never seen guys do anything like this. So it just goes to show how baseball is evolving. And, this is kind of like the next evolution of baseball, where we're going to have professional athletes being legitimate two-way players that are going to hit 40 home runs a year. They're going to throw, I don't know if he's on track to throw 300 innings this year, but they're going to throw 200 to 300 innings in the season and be dominant both ways.
Look at DeGrom. Like DeGrom, even we were talking about him earlier, I think in the season as someone who was we were talking about what he was doing, and he, to be fair, he was not doing anything to the extent of what Shohei Ohtani is. Not at the plate. That's what I'm talking about. He was not doing anything to the extent of Shohei Ohtani at the plate, but even what he was doing was so remarkable for a pitch. No, not only for a pitcher, but what he was doing at the plate too. We were talking about he might have been for a while there, where you guys had a lot of people in the DL and whatever. He was the best hitter you guys had for a while.
That dude had more as a pitcher, right? That dude had more RBIs than runs given up on the season.
And what he
video
did,
game stuff.
And we were talking about that, he was literally the baseball Jesus. But then Shohei Ohtani comes in and he just puts all of that even to shame. And you know what it is? There are people like Stephen A. Smith who might say that, oh well, this he said that he shouldn't be the face of American baseball. That's cap, stupid, whatever, right? This is so good for the sport. This is I have never just 1 second. I've never seen so many non-baseball fans watch a home run derby. The ratings were through the roof for the home run derby and the All-Star game because of people like Shohei Ohtani, because of all these people from different places. Baseball has become more of an international sport. MLB has become exactly. The MLB has become such an international game now. We're seeing the developments of it, and it's so great for the sport of baseball because it gets people's attention. It's funner to watch when you see pitchers doing this. It's like what baseball was like in the 1920s. It was or back in the day when Babe Ruth was doing that. When you had people being pitchers and hitters and dominating all facets of the game. like we're just getting like a little bit of a taste of that. Imagine what happens, like 10 years from now when maybe this becomes much more freak. Maybe every other team has a Shohei Ohtani or that type of player, and that's how we begin to develop players to be kind of two-way players. That is going to be, I think, much better for the sport. That is going to be much better for the entire like baseball fans, because there's going to be more of them. And we talked about baseball for a long time, man. Like it wasn't I don't want to say it was a dying sport, but dude, it was not pretty for a while there. After the steroid scandal happened, and especially coming off of the trash can scandal, it was not pretty. It was not pretty. Like as far as some of the things you were seeing, I still think baseball has a ways to go as far as some of the dumb rules they've implemented, like the whole like. Someone starts on second base at the 10th inning, and
oh, they got to get rid of that shit. I hate that shit.
It's so dumb. It's like that kind of stuff. That's more rules oriented. But as far as developing players, I like the direction this is going, and I hope this continues.
Just a quick comment about what you said. Part of the reason why I didn't agree with what that man said on television the other day, partially because baseball.
That man being Stephen A. Smith.
Yes, I refuse to say his name. Part of the reason why I disagreed was because baseball is a universal. As much as it's dubbed America's pastime or something like that, dude. It's a universal sport. Like they're playing baseball at every country, dude. They're playing baseball in Japan. They're playing baseball in the Caribbean. They're like, it's not just in this country. So even though the teams and the big name teams are all from this country and everything like that, dude, if you watch a thing called the World Baseball Classic, the USA is not sending teams there every single year and finishing like winning the gold or something like that. Like we won the most recent one, dude. But before that, I don't think the US had even placed in any single World Baseball Classic before winning the most previous one, dude. It was Japan, the DR, PR, Mexico. All those teams were fucking shitting on us. And they're always going to, and when they're producing guys like Shohei Ohtani, when like those guys are coming out of countries like that, and the big name guys now are coming out of countries like that, baseball is a universal sport. So anyone, doesn't matter where he's from, anybody can be the face of baseball. And I think this guy can be the face of baseball, dude.
Absolutely. It's you've gone even beyond that, man. I mean, who is that? Who was that? What was his name? Was it is Liam Hendricks like he's like coming up as far as the Australian leagues go, like we're seeing like baseball has become like an international sport, and I always hated that thing, like what Stephen A said, like, oh, it's not good for the sport to have like a Japanese guy with a translator be representing the sport. I'm like, dude, what? Like
the majority of guys that play this sport are from the Caribbean islands. So, yeah. And most of them have translators too. The ones that don't speak English, they try to. So that was a horrible.
And it's as if like you need a personality to be like the face of baseball. Like, listen, no,
I don't give a fuck what this guy has to say. You know what I give a fuck about? I give a fuck how fast he lights up that radar gun and how fucking far that home run goes. That's all I care about.
Amen. And boy, the Shohei Ohtani lighted up. Like I said, overall, I think the story of this year, no matter who wins the World Series and all that stuff, and all love to your boy DeGrom, who is amazing, Shohei Ohtani will be the story of this season, and he deservedly so. This dude is amazing, and I hope he keeps it up for the rest of his career. This dude's amazing. Like, he's only 27. He's still like probably in his prime, just entering his prime. So big ups to Shohei Ohtani. Let's go to the chat. It kind of went off a little bit. Ooh. Titans lost to the Bengals. Have anxiety. He's saying you should have anxiety.
You don't understand, dude. When I watched that shit happen, I was like, how do we start out 5-0? Literally, I was sitting there. How the fuck do we beat the Ravens in Baltimore and we lose to Joe Burrow? I get Joe Burrow is good, but he has nothing around him. Like, yeah. But that's what I'm talking about, dude. My team, we didn't play defense. We were a Big 12 defense last year in the sense that we didn't play defense. So I think the defense will be much improved. So we will just go from giving up 27 points a game to giving up 25.
There we go. That improvements. That's what we need. What NFL rookie quarterbacks will have rookie of the year? If he plays, I think Justin Fields. I don't think he will though. So it's going to end up being, if it's rookie quarterbacks, you're limiting it to probably Sunshine, because it's not going to be Zach Wilson. I guarantee you, it's not going to be Zach Wilson.
I don't think it's going to be Zach Wilson either. It might end up being
Trey
depending on
Lance.
depending on what San Francisco does, it could be Trey Lance. I'm not
The
going to
thing
bet.
is, they're going to start Jimmy. I genuinely think they're going to start
They
Jimmy
will
G.
too. See, I think if Fields plays, if Fields gets his
Yeah.
reps, I think Fields. It's the same thing with like Jonathan Taylor. Like Jonathan Taylor would have won Offensive Rookie of the Year had they just given him touches the first 5 games of the year. Jonathan Taylor would have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He would have ran away with it.
I'll say this. I'll give everyone a bit of a what's it called? A bold statement here. Bold prediction. If the Lions end up, if the Lions end up above 500 by, if the Lions finish with a record of above 500, I will say that Penei Sewell 100% needs to be Rookie of the Year, because you know what that means? It means that he guarded the fuck out of Jared Goff
and if Jared Goff
protected
doesn't
him.
get hurt,
If Jared Goff doesn't get hurt, if Jared Goff has a good season, Penei Sewell for rookie MVP, take it to the bank.
But my thing, just real quick, I just want to. I do think Fields. I think if Fields gets his touches just based on the team that's around him, that's a playoff defense, by the way. I just think if Fields gets his reps and Fields plays, Fields is obviously an upgrade from Trubisky. So I think if Fields gets his touches, they have a good enough defense to get them to the playoffs. If Fields gets that team to the playoffs, he wins Rookie of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why I don't want to go with Sunshine is just because you can look at Jacksonville's schedule and you could see losses on that schedule. Like, Indy.
That being said, though, even like Kyler Murray didn't they didn't do well his first year. They went 5-10-1. So I mean, again, it's all subjective.
Unless
I
you
think
see
it's
drastic improvement. Unless you see drastic improvement, like this team won 1 game. If they win 5 games next year, maybe he might win.
Maybe.
Again, if Fields takes the Bears to the playoffs, how do you really? And Fields has to start if Fields gets to start week 4, and they make the playoffs, and he starts all the way through it from week 4 on. You have to give it to him. You have to.
Absolutely. Let's continue on real quickly. How many more years will Big Ben play? 1. He's done. He better be done after this year. As to quote Cincy in the chat, man's gonna get murked with that O-line. 100% true. At least I don't have to worry about the Bengals moving. No Cincy edits. You do not have to worry about the Bengals ever moving, because no
put
city.
a roof on that practice facility, though. Put a roof on that thing.
No city will ever take the Bengals franchise. Stephen A. Smith is the same guy who said the Bengals will regret drafting Joe Burrow over Herbert.
Before Joe Burrow got hurt, he was doing numbers. What do you mean?
Great. He was great. Look, bro, they're both great quarterbacks. Do I think Justin Herbert is going to be better than Joe Burrow? Maybe. That's
Maybe.
hey, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, with what, 14 starts? Hey, but that's besides the point. Joe Burrow also is great. They're both great. I think that's kind of capping for Steve, on Stephen A. Not you, Cincy. You're obviously correct about that. Let's move on, Andrew. Let's move on, stick with the NFL, and talk about them Cowboys. The Dallas freaking Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys will open training camp under stricter COVID-19 protocol restrictions because they did not reach the 85% vaccination threshold required to limit those restrictions that the NFL put in place. Owner and general manager Jerry Jones said that he does not believe it will impact the players' readiness and preparedness in the regular season. He said, quote, "My opinion is that it will absolutely," I'm not going to do the voice. "My opinion is it will not limit us in any way. The issue of vaccination will not limit us in any way as being competitive as early as when we play Pittsburgh in the first preseason game. When people say, where do you think you stand right now with vaccine relative with your team as it pertains to competition, I think we're one of the leaders," he says. And that kind of drew the ire of one Michael Irvin, former Cowboy great, who said, yeah, it should upset them. It should upset them. Dude, you're not thinking right. Wherever you got it, I don't give a damn. Nothing else can be more important. He's talking about getting vaccinated. He's talking about not even getting vaccinated, getting that vaccination threshold over 85% so that those restrictions are limited and go away. So, Andrew, where do you think about this? Will the Cowboys be at a disadvantage this year because of those stricter protocols?
I don't think they will be because I think ultimately the players are going to end up getting vaccinated anyway. You heard about the Larry Fitzgerald, not the Larry. You heard about the Nuke stuff that came out today, right? Nuke threatened retirement because he's not vaccinated and he's like pissed off the league is forcing him to. But the NFL is what is it? I just read something that the NFL is threatening to potentially not let guys collect game checks and
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
So it's basically, I think they're ultimately, it's not going to be an issue because I think it's going to end up ultimately forcing a lot of these guys. If these guys want to sit out, listen, they can sit out, but they're risking, not getting paid and potentially getting blackballed. So if they want to go down that route, they're grown men. That's their decision. But I don't think it's going to ultimately affect, I don't think it's going to affect Dallas at all, just because it's Dallas, dude. This is the Cowboys, dude.
I mean, any other team that doesn't have it, yes, it will affect you. The Cowboys, they're not going to win anyway. They're going to lose in tragic fashion anyway. They're not going to be prepared anyway because look at their GM, look at their coach. The only thing that can hang their hat on is their quarterback in Dak Prescott, who I think is universally thought of as a pretty great to even elite quarterback at some times, but he would be even more elite had he not played for the Dallas Cowboys. I think for the Cowboys, though, if you're honest, if you're thinking about it honestly, they should get over the limit. It's not that difficult to do. Like it's just people are acting like this is like some sort of like evil standard that the NFL is saying to. It's like, no, dude, we want to make sure the games are played. We want to make sure the games are played as safe as possible during a pandemic. Just get vaccinated so that you can limit these protocols because what people don't realize, dude. What people don't realize about these restrictions that are being put in place by the NFL is it's not only like you have to wear masks. It's not that simple. It's also there's only a certain number of players that can be in the training facility, in the workout rooms at a certain time, use the sauna at a certain time, use the showers at a certain time. It really does limit what you can do in the team facility. And, as far as training, as far as working out and even game film and having those meetings, like those become harder to organize. It would just be a more relaxed environment for your players and allow them to focus more on the game and getting ready for the game, I think, if you did make that 85% threshold and you just got vaccinated. I mean, I think it's simple. At this point, we've seen that the vaccine doesn't have the effects that some players like Cole Beasley believe it probably has. Like it's been proven to be pretty safe. I think the players just need to get over it. Mike McCarthy also had some weird comments about the vaccine, but I'm not gonna, echo those. It's just stop being children. Just get it. It's like it's literally like we have to get flu shots or whatever when we went to Catholic. When we went to Catholic, we had to get our shots updated, right? We had to get those shots updated. We had to get that immunization record in. It's basically the same thing. If you want to play and be focused for the game and be ready for the game, just get vaccinated. Not that hard.
Unless they're scared of needles.
They are. They are. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe Jerry Jones is just scared of needles.
I think he is.
You know what else he's scared of? Winning. Also, Cincy in the chat just responded to your practice facility thing with the Bengals. He's like, we can't do a practice facility because zoning rules or something, I think, but we use the University of Cincinnati practice facility sometimes. If there's an outbreak, the players that caused it have to pay $70 million fine together. That's his, what's it called? That's his suggestion to the NFL. Hey, man, you might as well because it's pretty dumb if you don't. Anyway, let's actually talk about this.
Cincinnati has some nice practice facilities too, by the way.
By the way, they do. Andrew, let's talk about this. In a major escalation of pressure on the NFL teams to get vaccinated and get as many players vaccinated as possible, the NFL says that teams will forfeit games and be slapped with a loss of a game and loss of game checks for the players because of a COVID-19 outbreak amongst unvaccinated players. And neither team's players will obviously get paid, so that impacts the other team as well. If one team has an outbreak, the other team will be affected negatively. So this is kind of putting pressure on the teams to just get it done. And the new policy, which could potentially affect playoff seeding as well, communicated in a 10-page memo sent to all 32 teams, as reported by Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. Quote, These operating principles are designed to allow us to play a full season safe in a responsible way and address possible competitive or financial issues fairly. The memo comes as some NFL teams have struggled, like the Cowboys have struggled to get a majority of their players vaccinated. Though all 32 teams are now at least above 50% of their players being vaccinated, 2 teams in the Washington football team and the Indianapolis Colts only reached that benchmark last week, according to the Associated Press. So we were seeing these teams, we're seeing the NFL kind of saying, hey, okay, let's stop being children about this. Get your players vaccinated so there can be less restrictions so that we don't have to worry about canceling games, because that was a big thing. Like having to move those games, as fun as Wednesday Night Football was, by the way, as much as I loved Wednesday Night Football for the Ravens-Steelers game, it got to be a hassle organizing those games, organizing time for me to, even as a fan, get ready to watch those games. It was a bit crazy, and I think what the NFL is trying to do here is say, okay, the most responsible thing and the best way to avoid canceling these games and best way to avoid outbreaks is to get players vaccinated. So let's get these players vaccinated, and if you don't, well, you're not trying your best to avoid these types of situations, so we're going to penalize you, and to put even more added pressure on that, they're going to penalize the other team. So what do you think about these restrictions and the way the NFL is going about this?
I think that's the only thing they can do is you got to, guys understand once you start taking their money away, guys understand that. And that's incentive enough. A lot of these guys, particularly some of the younger guys who haven't been paid yet, they can't afford to not get those game checks. You know what I'm saying? They can't afford to not get those game checks. So I think this is what the best thing that the NFL can do is, take their money away until they decide they want to get vaccinated, and just do it. Like, just do it, man. Like, get the vaccine, and then we could all enjoy. It's free. Then we could all enjoy it. Then we could all enjoy watching football. Like, that's the whole point. Like, get the vaccine, and then you can play football, and then you can get paid. You don't got to worry about your team forfeiting and potentially fucking over the other team.
Yeah, and look, it's as much, I think, on. Here's the thing. People want to make like the distinction. Why are they unfairly persecuting unvaccinated players? Because those unvaccinated players aren't doing the most responsible thing to avoid these types of problems. It's a very simple thing. Like it's so weird to me that people are making it a bigger deal than it already is. Like, just stop being a baby. Just stop being a child and get the shot. Like, there's so many requirements that the NFL already requires. Like, it requires physicals. Like, what? So should you not get a physical before when you're traded or when you sign to a team because you're asserting your First Amendment right not to get a physical? Okay, you don't get a physical. Guess what? You don't get signed to the team. The trade doesn't go through. You get penalized. That's what happens. And this isn't like something huge. Like, they're not like, forcing you to fucking take poison. They're not forcing you to to do like something outrageous. They're forcing you to get something that is medically proven to work. They're not even forcing you. They're suggesting it. It's just. It's so simple to do, and the fact that it's turned into such a big deal, the fact you got people like Cole Beasley and potentially Mike McCarthy coming out and saying that it's really unnecessary to get vaccinated, and then they won't do it. It's just like, stop being a child. Stop being a child. Just do it.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Cincy is going ham in this chat today, Andrew. Cincy edits in the chat says, if there's an outbreak, players that caused it have to pay $70 million fine together. What? That's an actual rule, I think. Heard it on Pat McAfee show. That is not an actual rule. The $70 million, that's cap. No, that's cap. He said, I'm scared of needles. Good thing I'm not in the NFL. Well, Cincy, grow a pair, be a man. Come on now. Come on. It's a needle. I'm scared of needles. Anyway, but it is what it is. Let's move on, Andrew. Talk about something a little more lighthearted. Let's talk about these new name, image, and likeness deals that some of these high school players are getting. It's kind of wild. High schoolers are starting to get paid thanks to these new NCAA rules that allow players to make money out of their name, image, and likeness. Explosive scoring guard Mikey Williams, who won't even be eligible for the draft until the year 2024. He still has nearly 2 years until he has to decide even on college. He has a massive social media following, and he is getting some major deals. Williams, a San Diego native, he just signed a deal with Excel Sports Management, and the deal is projected to land him and net him millions of dollars of endorsements over the next few years, according to Excel's VP. And he is not alone. Nick Saban noted that his quarterback, his new starting quarterback in Alabama, Bryce Young, is nearing scholarship deals that are almost in the seven figures, and Bryce Young has not even started a game yet. So what do you think about these deals that some of these players are getting, and like what do you think about the way that these rule changes are starting to play out?
A lot of these deals are really lucrative. Like you just mentioned the Mikey Williams thing. I mean, it's great. Players are able to profit off of their name, image, likeness, and everything like that. If you wanted to buy a Mikey Williams San Jacinto or whatever school he transferred to, I think Lake Norman in North Carolina, if you wanted to buy a jersey, you can't, and he gets paid for it and everything like that. That's great. The whole Bryce Young thing and everything, listen, he's going to make so much money for Alabama. It's nice that he's at least going to get, he's going to get paid too. So that's nice. The only thing that I don't agree with necessarily with paying some of these high school kids, a kid like Mikey Williams, is because he's so young and because the pros are so far away, we don't know what could happen between now and then. And the way a lot of these like places work or something like that, you don't want an ACL and the next thing you know, that's it. He loses all his endorsements, all that stuff, and it's over for him. That's the only thing, is you don't want him getting inked, like signing a deal for X number of years, and then, because of an injury that sidelines him, it ultimately, derails his career and prevents him from, basically, you don't want to see this kid get taken advantage of. That's the only thing that I don't agree with them paying high school kids. College kids is fine, because at least a college kid, listen, if they get injured and all that stuff, they'll at least be able to finish out their degree, get a degree, go use that degree, make something out of it. A high school kid, though, there's no guarantee a high school kid, maybe he'll go to college, but if the high school kid gets injured before that, his stock drastically falls. And then, like, we're not even talking NBA, like the college, he might not even be in the same, like, be able to go to the same colleges that he would have been able to go to. So you don't want to see these kids get taken advantage of by these big time like corporations or anything, especially from that young of an age.
So I do think that I agree with like the sentiment, but I have a little bit of a different take on it. And let me know what you think about it. But for me, it is different between the high school and the college kids. Like for someone as young as Mikey Williams is, I think it's great. I think he's great. He's optimizing like his ability. Like and look. Mikey Williams, he's a very, very talented player. He might end up being like a top 10 pick in the draft one day. Who knows? That's still a long ways away. But if there is this amount of attention paid to him, the AAU is a very lucrative business in itself nowadays too, with all of the TV deals that they got, the sponsorship deals they get from like Nike and Adidas and what have you. There's a lot of money thrown around there. So my thing is, I think for players younger than like 18, if you're not an adult, one thing I would like to see is your sponsorship money put into a trust, like that you have access to when you're 18, when you become a full adult. Because what I think that does is, one, it protects the player from being taken advantage of, but not only by these agents, not only by potential friends, but by family members, but by and maybe a little bit by themselves, because like look, we as responsible as I'm sure Andrew, you and I were when we were 16. You give us a whole bunch of money, you give us hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're not going to know what to do with it. We're going to be idiots,
people, dude.
We're going to be idiots. We're going to be idiots about it, like if we're being honest. So, and that's also I think a good way to kind of remedy the situation you mentioned of if a player like Mikey Williams at his age gets injured and he doesn't amount to what he was or what he could have been in the NBA or the NFL or what have you, right? One thing that I think could help with that is having that money to kind of fall back on that he earned when he was a teenager. When he turns 18, if like the NBA doesn't work out, he'll have that kind of nest egg to like either go back to college or what have you, like whatever he wants to do, start a business. Like I think that's a good way to protect these players and actually help them and set them up for success, because you don't want to I don't think you want to kind of like have all those influences on someone who is that young. Like see, when people forget 16 is like still very young, dude. Like I I like the fact that they're getting representation, and I think, getting sponsorship deals should be a thing. But I would like to see maybe like a trust or something of that set up for their future rather than like right then and there. Like maybe like, if the family like has monetary issues, obviously, like then, you pay off like whatever. But like I think there's a better system than just like flooding that money in right now. For someone like Bryce Young, though, for like college players, I think it's like you're over 18. And you are the starting quarterback of Alabama. You are making that team money. You are making the SEC money. You are making Nick Saban money. You are making the University of Alabama money. Billions of dollars. Pay him whatever. Get him paid. He can make whatever he wants. And look, the NFL, man, it's a cutthroat. Like the football is a cutthroat sport. There's no guarantees for tomorrow at all. Like we've seen it, man. We've seen it, whether Joe Theismann, Alex Smith, what have you. Like these, like there's no like who was the running back from South Carolina State that was going to be great? Like everyone raved about him. It was way back in the day. Like 2010, 2011. Yeah, but he was great for all those years. He was part of that Sarkisian offense, and he ended up like tearing his ACL, and then like all of that potential went out the window. Someone like him should have that money to fall back on, should have the ability, especially considering the amount of money they generated. So college, I think Bryce Young should make $7 million, 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever he can. Make it, dude. The amount of money the NCAA makes, college football itself makes like between $4 to $6 billion in annual revenue a year. Dude, if Bryce Young gets paid 7 figures for signing some autographs and what have you, hell yeah, go for it.
I agree. I mean, I think college players, college players should be able to benefit to some degree. High school kids, I just don't want to see young kids, young impressionable kids. But I get where they're also coming from too, where you got these fucking 16-year-old TikTok stars who can get famous off of doing a fucking basic dance on TikTok and shit. And it's just like, they're able to make millions off of that. Why is a basketball player who literally he's grinding hard every single day, he's working hard, doing all that shit, and he actually has a legitimate future, it could potentially have a legitimate future. Why is he not allowed to capitalize? I get that perspective, but at the end of the day, I also don't want to see this kid get taken advantage of, because there's a big difference between a TikTok star and and athletes. Like big difference. So
fully agree. And like I don't know exactly where that line is, but I think they're when it comes to high school players and people who are under 18, there needs to be, and I'm not saying like there needs to be a sense of amateurism. These kids should still make money. I just think when they get that money, should be optimal for their lives. And
just think about it. Just think about it. Players that are under the age of 18, 17-year-olds, they can't legally sign their professional contract when they get drafted. So that's another thing to keep keep that into consideration, is that when they can't legally sign that contract, when these kids are being offered these endorsement deals, are their parents orchestrating this? Are their parents behind it? Because if it is, that would be a lot better. Their parents consenting at least. But if this is just, a company reaching out to Mikey, yeah, we're going to give you X number of this, but you got to do this or something like that. I just don't want to see the young kid get taken advantage of.
Same, because that's what's best for Mikey too. Yeah, I fully agree. And since he edits, might as well just be a producer on the show. He just fact checked me here. It was Marcus Lattimore, the South Carolina State running back. You remember him? Marcus Lattimore. He was a beast in college, and then he tore his ACL, and he just never made it in the NFL. Dude, like he was gonna be great too. He's gonna be like that game changing running back too. Big ups to Marcus Lattimore, by the way. Go ahead.
I remember.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. You remember? I'm glad you remember. You know what Packers fans remember? When Aaron Rodgers was happy in Green Bay. The days of 2009 to 2010 are long over. Aaron Rodgers is pissed. We know that the long-running saga between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers this offseason has gripped the NFL world. The Packers fans are not happy about it. The NFL fans are very eagerly waiting where he might end up. And this week, it was reported that disgruntled Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers had rejected a contract extension that would have kept him on the Packers for an extra 2 years, and also in the process would have made him the highest paid annual quarterback in NFL history. Andrew, this news comes as Aaron Rodgers has still not reported to camp. He has sent out a lot of cryptic messages. He shown that he probably doesn't respect the way the Packers do business. He did that in the Kenny Mayne interview. We've talked about it all offseason. Is this news surprising considering everything that's happened this offseason?
It's not surprising, but until he's traded, he's still a Packer. Just because he turned down the extension means nothing. He still can show up to training camp, and he could hold out or something like that. That's up to him. But he's still a Packer as far as I'm concerned. And hey, you know what? Giannis just won that chip, dude. They might, if it's desperate times, dude, they might get Gutekunst, those dudes, they might get Giannis in there, sit him down, talk to him, and just be like, listen, buddy, as bad as it might be, just stick it out, and it could be worth it. They might bring Giannis in there. Giannis put up with a lot of shit too. A lot of the same bullshit Giannis persevered. They might get Giannis to sit down with him and just be like, listen, man, the city loves you. We love you. As much as it feels like the organization doesn't love you, they love you. You just got to, just fucking keep grinding, dude.
I think Rodgers has been through way more than Giannis has in his over almost 15 years in Green Bay or whatever it's been. I don't think it's surprising either, though. I don't think it's surprising considering everything that's come out. People want to shit on Adam Schefter for his reporting about this. Dude, Aaron Rodgers. It's obvious to anyone that Aaron Rodgers is not happy. It's the 22nd of July right now. A Hall of Fame game kicks off August 5th. It is close as ever to the NFL season starting, and the starting quarterback of your team refuses to even show up to the facility, refuses to answer phone calls from your GM. That's a sign that something is wrong, refuses to take a contract that would make him the highest paid player in NFL history. That is a problem. You have and Packers fans who want to say, oh, he'll come back, we'll come back. You're in denial of a massive problem. It's not about the fans. It's not about the Packers history and the players even. It's about the way this organization has gone about not even mistreating Aaron Rodgers, but ignoring him over the past decade. They've ignored him, and he's done. Because the age of players putting up with this for 15 plus years, it's over. Aaron Rodgers has been here for 15 years, and he's seeing Tom Brady go out there, build his own team, be successful, win a chip his first year. He's seeing, the NBA obviously has been happening over the past like 15 years almost too. He's seen all this happen. He's like, what am I doing here playing for a team for an organization that doesn't respect me, an organization whose values I don't like, an organization who doesn't get me the help that I want and need, who doesn't even consult me, didn't even tell me when they were drafting my successor. Because it's never... The biggest misconception is that this was about Jordan Love. It was never about Jordan Love. If the Packers had told him that, or if they had told Aaron Rodgers that we like this kid Jordan Love, we want to pick him, we're going to do it, and consulted him about it, I don't even think the whole Jordan Love thing would be as big a deal for him as it was. But the fact they didn't even tell him, the fact that he was on Pat McAfee's show the day of the draft thinking that they were going to get a receiver, and they didn't, and they drafted a successor, didn't even know it. Joe Flacco, of all people, was told about Lamar Jackson's draft before he was drafted. Joe Flacco was told that they were looking for a quarterback. And you don't treat Aaron Rodgers with that amount of respect? The best quarterback? The dude who's throwing 150 yards deep balls on golf courses? He threw the ball 150 yards in the air. At what is he now, 36? It's asinine. It is not surprising, and he's gone. He's gone. I don't care. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care about the reports. I'm sorry. Until he shows up to training camp, Aaron Rodgers is gone. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, I think mentally he has checked out. I think he might, if he does even play out this season at all in Green Bay, it would just be this season. See how things go, and see what happens. But as it stands right now, dude, he is still a Green Bay Packer. Rejecting that extension, obviously, it does not look good for the Packers organization, but time will tell what happens.
Yeah, time will tell what happens. And the other question I have going off of this is, where do you think both the Packers and Rodgers kind of go from? More specifically, the Packers. The Packers are looking at a situation where football kicks off in less than 2 weeks, and they don't have their starting quarterback in training camp, gelling with the receivers, gelling with the offense, trying to, get ready for the season. And he's been disgruntled and all that. You have Blake Bortles on the roster. You have Jordan Love on the roster, who Jordan Love, they said he's gotten better this offseason, so take that with a grain of salt, though. But where do the Packers go from here if Aaron Rodgers just decides not to show up?
If they better take the worst case scenario approach and just have those other guys just try to build as much chemistry as they can in the coming weeks with their receiving core and with that offensive line. And, they have to take the worst case scenario and just hope that Rodgers does show up, because obviously best case scenario is Aaron does show up. Worst case scenario, though, they have to plan for it and they have to be ready for it. They have to expect it. That's the approach they should take.
Yeah, I mean, expecting it like it's.
They have Blake Bortles, dude. You got to understand, dude. Blake Bortles is not a scrub, okay? He's not good. He's not good, but he's not a scrub.
He's not a scrub. I don't think he's a scrub. I think he'll be fine. He'll be a fine backup. Like,
he took Jacksonville to the AFC Championship. Now, do I think he is Aaron Rodgers? Of course not. But that is an AFC Championship caliber level quarterback they have in Green Bay to go along with Jordan Love. And I think they got to start building the chemistry with those guys now, dude. Just as much as they can, because they have to expect Aaron to not walk through those doors. And when he does, you know what? If he does, that's great. But they have to be ready.
He won't be there for long, though. If he does, and again, we're close to the deadline here. If he does walk through those doors, this will be the last season Aaron Rodgers ever plays as a Packer. Guaranteed. Take it to the bank. Andrew,
you know what? What they could do is they could just make this a lost season. They could start Jordan Love, make this a lost season, and you got Spencer Rattler coming out next year, and they could do that too.
Yeah, man. That Jordan Love pick is actually getting worse and worse by the day. And again, Jordan Love could be good. We just no idea. We'll find out in 2 weeks. We'll find out in 2 weeks how good Jordan Love actually is.
Keaton Slovis, you got Jordan Love, you got that kid from North Carolina coming out next year. I mean, you got some studs coming out.
Big facts. Andrew, let's move on to our final official topic for the day. Let's talk about the NBA draft. By the way, NBA draft is next week. I think right around this time.
Thursday.
What are you doing next week around this time?
You know what? I was thinking about going to the draft. I ultimately opted against it. I will probably be sitting on my ass.
You want to sit on your ass on a live stream here, kind of talk about the draft?
Can we have Johnny?
Johnny just finished up his last day of school as this summer, so yeah, probably we'll ask him. What's up?
Then yes, I will be on next week.
We will be on
coverage.
You heard it right here.
You wear suits like Ty.
We'll wear, dude. I'll wear suits. I'll wear suits. We'll go all out. We'll go all out. So next week, right here on this channel, you will get a 2021 full breakdown of the NBA draft. We'll have the graphics and everything set up just like we did for the NFL draft, which, by the way, I got a lot of compliments for. Thank you for that. But we'll be doing that, giving up our Thursday night for that. So that'll be a bit of a special kind of presentation of Real Take Sports Talk we'll be doing. But Andrew, let's preview the NBA draft, which happens July 27th, 1 week from today. There's a lot to go through.
ESPN.
On Real Take Sports Talk, by the way, Thursday night. Yeah, just hit that subscribe button down below and just Thursday night, just join us. But yeah, no. So the NBA draft is kicking off next week. And look, we already know who's probably going number one. The Detroit Pistons are picking number one. It's going to be Cade Cunningham. It should be Cade Cunningham.
He only interviewed with that one team, so we already know.
It's already that's already set and match. There's a bit of controversy, I want to say, about who's going to go number two. It's almost split as far as Jalen Green and Evan Mobley. And look, Jalen Green, we see he went the G League route. The dude did great. I think he progressed, and he kind of showed that the G League is a viable route for players to come out of high school too. But Evan Mobley, superstar center. He has that superstar potential, much like DeAndre Ayton would. So he's kind of like also on that. I think people kind of see him as a bit of an upgrade too, because he does play the center position. That's kind of valued a lot in the draft, especially early on. So who do you think is going to end up going number two in this draft, and who should go number two? And you can give different answers for those two questions.
Right. So I think Mobley should go number 2. Who has the second pick? It's Oklahoma City, right?
Yep. No,
No,
Houston Rockets
Houston.
have the number 2 pick.
So Houston could go the Jalen Green route, but the thing is, Houston has such a plethora of guards right now. Like they traded for that kid that the Cavs used to have. You know what I'm
Porter.
talking about? The lefty,
Porter.
They traded
Yeah.
for Kevin Porter, so they kind of got him. They have Jayshawn Tate. They have they have a lot of guards on that team. They don't really have a big man. Like, yeah, they did they bought in Christian Wood, right? Like they bought in Christian Wood, but Christian Wood, he's not a traditional big. And if there's anything that these NBA playoffs just taught you is that even though big men, like the traditional big men, might be obsolete, like the back of the basket big men, you need those super athletic rim protectors who can get it done. And much like DeAndre Ayton, as you saw with Phoenix, and much like, I mean, I'm not going to say Mobley is Giannis, but he can be that rim protector, the rim runner, the athletic guy that a championship caliber team like Phoenix has. He could be that Houston needs, and he would fill a big hole because they did trade Capella a couple of years ago to try to go all in on small ball. So that's who I think should go number 2. Who do I think will go number 2? I mean, if Houston's smart, they'll go with Mobley, but I just think that a lot of the hype around Jalen Green right now is really pointing that Jalen Green's not going to go past 2. So that's a lot of hype.
It is hype, but it's also like, and I don't know, maybe the Rockets are putting it out there to kind of distract people and maybe throw them off. I don't know why, because no one's going to trade up to number 1 to pick Jalen Green. But
Cleveland is interested. I heard Cleveland's interested.
Well, we're just interested in any good player. Look, we have the number 3 pick through the Cavs, and we're probably gonna end up picking like fucking like I don't know, like Moses Moody, like or Kuminga or something, because we just can't draft right. We never draft right. But even when it's right there in front of us. But no, for the Rockets, I think they're linked to Jalen Green. They apparently like Jalen Green and and they think he's more pro ready. That kind of plays into it, I think, a little bit more. So that being said, that would put the Cavs getting Evan Mobley, hopefully, hopefully the Cavs would pick Evan Mobley. God knows what's going through Dan Gilbert's mind right now, but they'd be dumb not to pick to pick Evan Mobley. Honestly, he is best center in this draft. He's a dominant player. You know, his upside is just so great. Like he would fit a lot of holes. The Cavs already have a lot of guards on their team. Like we have Darius Garland, we have Colin Sexton, who's just automatic scoring, but we don't have a dominant big man that could help us, I think, grow down the line. I'm still holding out hope, even though I don't think it's going to happen at this point, that we are smart and we trade back up into the first round somehow and end up picking my boy Josh Giddey. I think he would be an upgrade over time over Darius Garland. And I think that he's a much better ball handler. He's a much better at getting his teammates involved. He played in the NBL. He played against professional basketball players, whether they're in Australia or not. They're professional basketball players. He played against professional defenses. He has the ability to shoot. I think Josh Giddey, Colin Sexton, and Evan Mobley over the next 3-4 years would be a very formidable trio in the East. That being said, that's probably not going to happen. That's wishful thinking on my part. But Evan Mobley is obviously I think the pick for the Cavs there.
If Mobley falls to 3, then yes.
That's if he falls to 3, and if he doesn't, if the Rockets end up doing the smart thing and pick Mobley, I think that's when you got a decision between Jalen Green and Jalen Suggs, though. That's the thing, because I know the Cavs are actually kind of big on Jalen Suggs and what he can do as far as where they are, where they are as far as if Mobley doesn't fall to them. Like that's what I'm hearing. So
I personally think Suggs would be better off in Toronto. I think with Toronto's, with just the kind of player that Suggs is, I watched pretty much every game he played at Gonzaga. I'm a huge Suggs fan. I've been a huge Suggs fan, just with the athleticism, his drive, his motor, and everything like that. If they're going to transition from Kyle Lowry who's been the face of that organization for the last decade, the perfect guy to do it would be a player like Jalen Suggs. He's kind of got that dog in him the same way Lowry does. He's got that chip on his shoulder. He's a little bit bigger. He's more athletic, but he can play physical the same way Lowry can. He can get up in defenders. He's not the best shooter, but, he's only 19 years old. He'll be 20. So by the time his career starts in Toronto, as something we've seen with Toronto, they are very good at developing players. I think the perfect place for Suggs would be Toronto. That's what I think, though. That's what I think should happen. Then after that, those are like the consensus top 4. You can kind of like 1 is pretty much set in stone. 2 and 3 are kind of like, interchangeable. And then 4, Suggs is kind of locked in at 4, but that depends on what happens at 2 and 3. So
can I ask you a question? Who is going to be, okay, I want to ask this the right way. Is there a player in this draft who's not going to be drafted in the top 5 who you think is underrated and is going to end up being a great player, like, 4 or 5 years down the line? Like, who do you see as potentially being that player? Like, for me, I'll just give you my answer. And then there's a few of them. I mean, James Bouknight is good. Frank Wagner Jr. is like a really good, solid player. But for me, that player, I've said it before, I will say it again, Josh Giddey is the most underrated player in this draft, period. This dude is, I think he's like Lonzo Ball, but he has, I think, more of an ability to get better at shooting. And if he figures that out, it's like he is the total package. He's got the best ball vision in anyone in this draft. Right now, he's slated to go like somewhere around 12 to San Antonio or 13 to like I think the Pacers or something. So he's kind of slated to go right there. But I think this guy he gets rebounds. He averaged I think it was like 8 rebounds a game. He's a point guard. He's got great ball vision. This dude he has the potential to be a superstar. And I think one of the reasons he's really getting, overlooked is because he plays in Australia. And, they don't have a lot of I guess, confidence. We've seen, foreign players kind of sometimes not perform to the extent that people expect. Andrea Bargnani is always the big one that comes to mind. Darko Milicic, those guys. But we were also seeing a string of foreign players recently, especially, doing pretty well. Luka Doncic, although Luka is a different type of player. He's a different kind of cat. But I do think the NBA should be more open-minded to someone who obviously has the ability that Josh Giddey has. I think he's got the biggest potential to be a superstar of anyone who's not in that consensus top 3 or 4.
So you said star potential?
Yeah, well, who's gonna be who is going to be that player who 4 years from now, we're gonna look at, oh damn, they passed on him.
We slept
yeah.
on him.
Yeah, who's gonna be I mentioned Frank Wagner, Josh Giddey, Jared Butler's there. There's Keon Johnson, there's Mitchell, Trey Murphy. There's a few of these players who I think are gonna be good. I think Trey Mann, who I think they have going to the Knicks, that dude is dude. Trey Mann. If you guys pick Trey Mann, that could be big for him. He's that guard out of Florida. He's tough. He's tough. But there's he could provide some scoring. I think for you could be a potential elite scorer, kind of like a Colin Sexton was. So there's a few picks out there. Kai Jones from Texas.
Star potential.
I mean, not even star potential, but who do you think is gonna surprise some people? Underrated. It can even be someone maybe even Jalen Suggs, not being a top 3 player. Or a pick.
I wouldn't be surprised if Suggs comes out and he is dominant. Not dominant, but he's good. A player that I could see coming out early on and surprising people. Okay. I think the kid out of Illinois, Ayo Dosunmu, could, when he comes in, because he's big, he's physical, his game, he kind of has that, he has a very high motor, he's a very good on-ball defender, and the scoring, that's just the scoring, obviously, that comes, when you're a young player, defense is what gets you on the court, especially when you're a player. I think he's projected to be a second rounder, so I think a player that's going to surprise a lot of people is going to be Ayo Dosunmu. Early on. A player who I think actually has a higher ceiling than people think might be Keon Johnson, just because of the athleticism that he's got. I think Keon Johnson, you look 5 years down the road and you'll sit there and be like, how did this guy slide to 8 or 9? So
Yeah.
That's where I see. Those are the two
Yeah.
that I see.
I mean, and for me, it's someone like Trey Mann. I think Trey Mann, if he goes to the Knicks, dude, under Tibbs, like the development there is going to be great. Like, and he look, one area I will say that you guys struggled with, like, is like getting that automatic scoring, like that ability to like you just get someone who can score points. Like not even off the ball, but like at will. So I think Trey Mann could have the potential of doing that and helping you guys with some scoring for the Knicks. But who are you kind of targeting, I guess, for the Knicks in this draft? Because like this is one of the first times, dude. This is one of the first times that the Knicks have not picked like top 3, top 5 in your entire lifetime. It's a rarity. So they got 2 picks like almost back to back. I think you guys got like 19 and 21 or something like that. Like it's only like a 1 pick difference, but. Who are some of the people you have your eyes on, later in the draft, or maybe even trading up a little bit to getting someone maybe at like 15 or whatever?
So in the first round, I think we're gonna look more towards guards. I would really like us if he falls that far. We need a playmaking guard, and a playmaking guard that I've been keeping my eye on has been Sharif Cooper. I think Sharif Cooper, he has as a playmaker. If you haven't seen this, go watch this kid. His playmaking ability is insane. Like it's so good. He might be a little undersized, but he's a really good playmaker, which is something New York needs. He could be a very good backup off the bench. Another one that I was thinking about that we actually New York, they literally interviewed him yesterday, or they loved how his showing was this kid out of Houston, 3rd-year player Quentin Grimes. One of the smoothest jumpers you'll ever see. Went to Houston. You watch him; he's big, like his body's all filled out. He's a physical kid. He can play on-ball defense. He doesn't have the biggest wingspan, but he has he has a very pure jump shot, very nice looking jump shot, nice looking stroke. He's about 6'5". So I think you get him in Tibbs' system. Tibbs will get him, Tibbs will make him a better defender because Tibbs can make anybody Tibbs can make an average defender a good defender. I think he could take this kid and make this kid into a pretty good on ball, pretty good defender in Tibbs' system. And the kind of shooter this kid already is, dude. A kid like Quentin Grimes is somebody that I think New York could steal. Another one is Miles McBride, just because Miles McBride, he played at West Virginia.
Very underrated in this draft.
Press Virginia. He's the kind of guy, he can play at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's that kind of guy where he will pressure 94 feet, which is Tibbs loves that. You get a guard that'll pressure you 94 feet, pretty athletic guy. He'll do everything that New York asks him. I think they can get him. And then another player that's kind of flying under the radar, because he did a couple years of college, but this guy was a McDonald's All-American in high school, was Charles Bassey. Bassey out of Western Kentucky. He was a very good rebounder. I think it's going to take him maybe a little while to kind of like get used to the NBA physicality. But I think once he does, he's already a big physical guy. Get him with the NBA weight training, get him on an NBA weight training regimen, the kind of rebounder that he is, he's a very good second unit player. See, for my Knicks, we don't really need a starter. Like we have Mitchell Robinson. We've already got the RJ Barrett. We've got our guys for the future. Now we're just trying to get role players. Like we could even sign a starter, like a good starter. We don't need to draft a starter. Now
I would argue the only if you guys were to draft someone, you guys just need some scoring, I think, off the bench. Like that's filling out your depth. Because no offense, that is one area that you guys did struggle with and show in the playoffs. Like just being able to keep up with other teams, because what you guys have built there with RJ Barrett, with the guys you have there now, and Tibbs especially. You've built something that I think can last because it's reliant on fundamentals and defensive basketball. But if you get that offensive punch to go along with it, it's going to send you guys, I think, over the top. And, you could win not 1, but 2 playoff series, be a contender. And I think that's where the mindset of developing these players should be, or analyzing these players should be for the Knicks. It's going to, who's going to provide us that offensive kind of punch, whether it's off the bench or off the ball, what have you. I think that's kind of at least with that first pick, kind of be keeping in mind.
Which is why I think a guy like some of these more NBA ready players, like they might not have the higher ceiling, but a guy like a Quentin Grimes, if a guy like Corey Kispert falls to us at 19, you can't pass on that. That's a 6'7". That's a 2-way, one of the best shooters, the best pure shooters in the entire draft. That he's already a pretty good on-ball defender. He might lack a little bit of athleticism, but he makes up for it with his size and physicality at 6'7". And, you got a guy like that in Tibbs' system. I just don't think Kispert's going to fall that low. I don't see Kispert falling anywhere. I don't see Kispert. I've seen people have him projected as a lottery pick. I don't see him falling to New York. That's all I'm saying.
Really? You don't see him falling to New York?
I don't. I just see one of these other teams that they could stand to add another shooter. Like I don't know who's ahead of us, but one of these other teams that could stand to just add another shooter just as like a role player. I could see one of those teams going and scooping him up. Like maybe if Golden State trades out of that 7th slot and they get like the 15th or 16th pick. He is a Golden State Warrior type player. 3-and-D, fits what they try to do. He could fit in their system and everything like that. I'm not gonna say he is Klay Thompson, but when you watch him play, his game reminds you of Klay Thompson. He's just not as talented as Klay Thompson, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I guess going off of that, who do you kind of see as maybe a bit overrated in this draft and a player who might end up even being a bust considering where they were drafted? And I'll go to myself again immediately because I'm a narcissistic maniac. For me, it's going to come back to Jonathan Kuminga. I think. And it's not that I don't have the faith in Jonathan Kuminga. I think he's a workhorse. I think he's got the motor. Like he reminds me in a lot of ways of Michael Kidd Gilchrist when he came out. That's like for me. And dude, I mean, like you can.
That's fucked up because he went to the same high school as Gilchrist too. That's
I'm hip, but like, dude. Like, think about it. A black hole offensively, but a great defender, high motor. That's exactly what Kuminga is. And that's pretty much what Gilchrist was. And that's not saying he can't be a contributor, but he struggles with jump shots. He struggles with shooting the ball. He was like what? 20, it was like 23, 24% from 3-point range. Like the dude just, he didn't light up the offensive scoreboard in the G League. So, that's the thing, but he was a great defender. That being said, I just don't think. I think not wasting, but spending a pick on Jonathan Kuminga at like top 5, it's not like it's not worth it in today's league. It's just true. Unless you're a team like the unless you're a team that's already has everything else. Like if you're a team like the Heat, if you're a team like the I guess the like the Lakers or even the Clippers. If you're one of these teams or the Suns, like if you're a team that's like already picking like it's already in the playoffs and you need some like perimeter defense, you need some good like defense, like pick Kuminga, but he's not gonna fall to you guys. He's gonna go like some trash team that probably doesn't need him as an immediate need. I think
or he'll go to the fucking Orlando Magic or some shit like
I
that.
think he's slated to go. I think to like OKC. I think that's where he's slated to go, and I think that would not be great for OKC. But that's just and again, it's perspective of where he's gonna go, like where he's gonna be drafted. It's like not gonna be a team that's gonna be the best fit for him, and that's why I think he end up might being a bust. And like the other ones that I think people are talking about are like people like Davion Mitchell, people like Keon Johnson. Actually, I think someone was like I forgot who it was. Someone on ESPN was talking about how he has some bust potential. Even though he's like a great player or whatever, but like they think like maybe he's like 3-point shooting might not be as apt to today's game.
See, someone like I think of like when I think of a bust, like you brought up Davion Mitchell, and the reason why it depends on where Davion Mitchell gets drafted because that is a 4. I mean, it says 3. He was a redshirt, so he actually did 4 years of college. A guy like that, I don't know whether you can actually put as much pressure on them because if they do get drafted that high and they don't live up, it's like, well, a 4-year player, when do 4-year players really ever live up to that kind of hype anyway? So the Davion Mitchell one, that's kind of tricky. You know what? One that I could kind of see is the Scotty Barnes, just because his game is based solely off of athleticism. His game is based solely off of athleticism, which we've seen, it takes some of those guys like a little minute to kind of get that jump shot together. And some of them don't even get it. Some of them don't even get it together. And like, once again, depending on the organization that he goes to, if he goes to an organization that's good with developing young players that has shown they can develop players, that's fine. If he goes to Orlando or if he goes to that dumpster fire in Chicago, then that could be, detrimental to his career. His career's over before it even starts.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, anything else you want to say about the draft? I guess, or preview or anyone you want to shout out who's potentially going to come out? I don't know. Any Jersey kids in the draft?
Kuminga technically is a Jersey kid.
Oh dear.
Sharif Cooper is technically a Jersey kid, even though he didn't grow up here. He was born here. Anybody else? Scotty Lewis out of Florida. He's another one. Shout him out. Pride of Ranny. There's him. Any other Jersey kids coming out? I don't particularly know of any other Jersey kids that are coming out that come to mind. So those are kind of like the three that I'm, kind of hoping for. That's about it for the draft. Though. I actually have a final thought though. It relates
Well,
to college football.
please. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, let's just go through the chat real quick because all hell kind of broke loose while we were talking about the NBA. So Andrew, to get you caught up, Cincy Edits and Liam27. These are two of my wrestling fans from the Wrestle Talk show. They love to take over the live chats, and I love that they love to take over the live chats. By the way, ask any questions in the live chats right now, guys, so we can get to those. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. We got our live draft coverage coming to you next week. Live Thursday, July 27th, right here on the channel. Subscribe so you get notified for that. Follow us on Twitter at Real Take Sports. Let's get to the chat real quick because Liam and Cincy have been up to something. So, Andrew, to get you up to speed, Liam at one point, I don't know what he was. He was, I think we were probably on something. He's tripping a little bit. He lied to us and about something that since he said in the chat, he like straight up lied, and it was like since he took great offense to it, it was a big controversy, one of the biggest controversies in Real Take Sports Talk history, by the way. But like Liam has officially he apologized, and since he wouldn't accept his apology, but since we were talking. Since he has accepted Liam's apology, big shout out to these two for working it out in the chat. And since Liam just said thank you, since he appreciated that. Thank you, Cincy, for being the bigger man. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate you. Let's get to some of these questions and these comments in the chat. Cincy Edit says the Hall of Fame game is going to be so boring, which it's going to be boring. I'm still going to have it on in the background. Like it's football, bro. Like football is back. Football is back. I'm still gonna have it on in the background. He said Jalen Green is pretty much locked into the Rockets. Yeah, pretty much. Hey, I'm a Cavs fan. I want Evan Mobley. I accept your apology. Okay, we have to go past that. This is Cincy's Cavs roster. This is interesting. Point guard Colin Sexton, shooting guard Darius Garland, small forward Isaac Okoro. Dear God. Isaac Okoro. Power forward, Jared Allen. Okay. And center, Evan Mobley. Okay. I mean, switch those first two, and I think you're pretty much spot on. I don't think Darius Garland's going to be playing the two. Ravens Flock says, will you guys be having Sunday pregame live streams? Not. I don't want to say live streams, but there is going to be a Sunday pregame breakdown show that will premiere on the channel. It's going to be separate from Real Take Sports Talk, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that though more in depth when we come to our NFL coverage later on, because it will be separate from Real Take Sports. It will be just like an own show dedicated to the NFL and kind of like just talking more in depth about the matchups and what have you. Let's keep going with this. Cincy asks, I don't jump when I shoot. Fucked up. I don't jump when I shoot, and I can shoot better than Jonathan Kuminga. You know what? Who's a better shooter, Jonathan Kuminga or Ben Simmons?
Oh, that's tough.
That's legitimately a tough. That's a legit. I'm gonna go with Kuminga.
If you ever feel down on yourself and you ever feel useless in life, just remember Ben Simmons wears a shooting sleeve.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Yeah, Cincy, Ravens Flock is pretty impatient. I just answered a question, by the way, Ravens Flock. Liam asks, may I ask why there was no Real Take Russell Talk on Tuesday? Let me answer that. There was no Real Take Russell Talk on Tuesday because Tuesday I was with family. I was busy. Could not be bothered with that this week. I have some videos that are going to be coming out talking about it throughout the week. So, again, Liam, you can watch those videos. So they'll be coming out, and they're updating throughout the day. So there'll be more dropping tomorrow and what have you. So be on the lookout for those, buddy. But we will be back with Real Take Wrestle Talk next Tuesday live here on the channel. If you're a wrestling fan, make sure you just hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. I just did that real quick. When is the Hall of Fame game? Asks Ravens Flock. The Hall of Fame game is August 4th or 5th. one of those two, whatever that Thursday is. Since it says Tuesday family vibes. Yes, Tuesday family vibes. Trevor was also very busy this week. It was a busy week in Real Take history, but we somehow managed to get a Real Take sports talk in one of the busiest weeks of my life. I don't know how that ended up happening. We usually never get in one of these in lately, but 47 episodes, we're still here standing. Boom, baby. 47 episodes in. We're going to 48, or 48. We're going to have so much fun. Okay, thanks. Major respect for hanging with family. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Got to. And anyway, Andrew, you had a final take. I remember you mentioning. So, Andrew, what's your final take?
I have a final thought. So I don't know if you heard that on the college football landscape that both the University of Oklahoma and the Texas Longhorns have basically reached out to the SEC and asked if they could join the conference.
Wait, what? Is this serious?
This is legit. They both
shit.
reached out and asked the SEC if they could join the SEC, leave the Big 12. I fucking love it, by the way. I think we should just have one fucking super college football conference where all the best fucking teams just put Oregon, put fucking USC, put Clemson, put fucking Ohio State, just put them all in one big ass conference and just have them go toe to toe. That way we have a game of the week every fucking week. And at the end of that gauntlet, we could rank all of them. We could do all that stuff. You know, you want an extended playoff, you know, we could rank all those teams. And then from there, go to the playoff. Whoever wins that, whatever that is, you know, top 4 teams, top 8, top 6, you know, and then we take the 4 teams from, or we take teams from other conferences, those mid-major teams, and we could set it up like a March Madness and just have them fucking go at each other.
All right, wait a minute. Hold up. I think I just pulled it up. Wait. So here it is. Bold leadership ready to move Texas into the brave new world of college athletics and possibility to the SEC. What?
Oklahoma, too. Oklahoma wants out. They both want to join the SEC.
Less than a week. Oh, my God. Hold on. Let me turn the music down here. Less than a week ago, overpaid and ineffective NCAA president. Oh, wait. This is hilarious. This is shitting on your boy, Mark Ermit. Publicly suggested decentralizing and regulating a long-time governing body that would give more power to conferences. As Texas Longhorns leadership prepares a potentially seismic change that looks in the future. Oh, my God. That's that. I don't know how I feel about that. And that would... I love it as like a movement for fans, but I don't know, man. That would really fuck over some colleges. That would really fuck over some colleges.
Hell fucking yeah, it would. You kidding me? Hell yeah, it would. I love it though.
I don't like it.
Listen, all those teams, all the TCUs, the fucking the Iowa States, you know, all the Kansas, they cry about because they can't compete with Oklahoma and Texas. Well, you know what? Then how about just let Texas go and Texas and Oklahoma go play against the SEC, let them go join that conference, and then you can have, you know, TCU can win the Big 12. It might be a watered down Big 12, but at least they'll get their wish and they'll finally get to win that conference. It might not mean as much because they're not going to have to play against the 2 real teams in their conference, but
Interesting. Hey, real quickly in the chat, I just want to get Cincy and Liam. I want to get your thoughts on this. Andrew has never watched wrestling a day in his life. How much would you like to see him watch a live stream of wrestling?
I watch UFC.
No. How much would you like? No, wrestling. How much would you guys like to see him and me watch wrestling one day? Like watch a show one day on a live show. Just let me know, Liam and Cincy, or anyone in the chat. Let me know. But yeah. I think it would be cool. But let me get to these thoughts on Nikki Ash. I'll put a video out about Nikki Ash cashing in because I have thoughts on that. Big E cashing in tomorrow would be hilarious if he did. He won't though. He definitely won't. John Cena and Roman Reigns having a feud, then Big E just comes out. Yeah, that would be hilarious. Grado comes out too. My final thought today, Andrew. There's been a lot going on in the sports world. There's been a lot happening. One thing that I think, you know, doesn't get talked about enough as football comes closer and closer. As football near, like, Andrew, what's the biggest, like here's the thing. We'll preview every game, like not every, we'll preview every game, but we'll go through our records because we're going to do that in a few weeks. We'll go through like who we think is going to win and what the records are going to be and all that. What's the one big storyline you think that's going to have kind of like the offseason storyline that's going to kind of bleed into this next year and kind of maybe set the tone for this next year. What do you think? What do you think is going to be like the big storyline? We already know Aaron Rodgers might be one. We know that the whole COVID and players coming back might be one. Patrick Mahomes, if he's going to be able to recapture that magic for another Super Bowl run. And there's a few. Lamar Jackson is going to be. Can he get over the hump? Maybe, the Titans. Maybe that's a storyline. What do you think it is? Because I have a thing. I think the most interesting one to keep an eye on is going to be the marriage between the Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford. Because for a long time, people have said Matthew Stafford is great. And he is great, by the way. For a long time, people have said if he was on any other team, he would be a Hall of Famer, no question. He would be might be a Super Bowl champion, MVP, and all that. And it's very, very well could be true. We're about to find that out. Because he's got it. That defense is lit. That defense is amazing. Aaron Donald is probably the most dominant defensive player in NFL history. And I'm willing to say that because as to do what he did as a defensive tackle is great. And he's got Woods. He's got the other. I forgot his name. He's always on my fantasy team. The white dude. He's got the receivers to go along with it. That running game. We'll see what happens. But the stage is set for Matthew Stafford, and he really it's time to finally put it to the test. What is Matthew Stafford capable of with a team that is built to win, with a coach that has been proven to win, and with a franchise that is not as snake bit as the Detroit Lions? For me, that's the biggest underlying storyline that I think people aren't paying as much attention to, that I think could define the season, because there's a overwhelming chance he's going to be successful and great, and everything will tell you that. But there's also that chance, Andrew, that it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, I think that the story is going to be about how the Rams, who were doing, look, they made the playoffs with Jared Goff. If they don't make the playoffs with Matt Stafford, what does that mean? That's big, dude. That's big because they're also in a tough division, man. 49ers are going to be back. The Cardinals are only getting better. And the Seahawks, look, Russell Wilson might be the best pound-for-pound player, right, or quarterback in the game as far as keeping his players in check. I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough outing, I think, for the Rams this year. Tougher than most people think.
That is interesting that you say that. My biggest storyline is going to be I'm looking right now at Tampa Bay's schedule. And I'm thinking, let's say this team starts out 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. Brady did go undefeated and lose in the Super Bowl back in 2007, 2008. Can Tampa Bay go undefeated?
That's a great question.
That is,
they could. I think they could. I think they're not
going to lose a division game. They're not going to lose a division game. That division's so weak.
They brought every single starter from the Super Bowl back this offseason. That hasn't happened in 40 years.
The only competition in the division, Falcons suck. Panthers suck. The only competition in the division was Drew Brees. He's gone. We don't even know what Jameis Winston. They don't even know whether it's going to be Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill. So the jury's out on that. They're going to win that. The only real games they have on the schedule was, when I looked, the Rams, the Bills, and
the Patriots. Don't discount that revenge game on the Patriots, man.
They got three real games. Every other game you could chalk that up. That's a W for Tampa Bay. So they get through those 3 games, and you can ask, is Tampa Bay, can they go undefeated and run the table and become the first team since that Miami team to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl? That's all Tom's got left to do, by the way.
He's already the greatest player in NFL history. That would just cement it. That wouldn't even cement it. This would just be another another tally on the board for Tom Brady. It's just, yeah. Warren Simmons in the chat says, quote, have a question about the NBA offseason. What do you like? By the way, welcome, Warren. Welcome to Real Take Sports. What do you think about a Kyle Lowry sign and trade to the Pelicans? Do you think Brandon Ingram will be a centerpiece? I think he means a centerpiece in that trade. I don't think the Pelicans... Well, if you're saying the Pelicans would trade away Brandon Ingram, I don't think you do that. No. I think you can get Kyle Lowry. You can probably you can find a way to get Kyle Lowry without trading away Brandon Ingram. But
you just don't pay Lonzo.
Yeah, you just don't pay Lonzo. But I think Kyle Lowry with Brandon Ingram and Zion would be very formidable in, like, especially as Zion kind of progresses a little more and maybe makes the playoffs, like adding that veteran presence, kind of like in a different, not as much of an impact, I think, but in a very similar way to Chris Paul had on the Suns. I think that he could have that kind of effect that could Kyle Lowry on a team like the Pelicans, because we know Brandon Ingram, man, like we've been talking about it for years. Like he had that superstar potential, and he's putting up some great numbers. They're not necessarily translating to wins, but I think alongside Zion next year, if he takes another step, I think that we could see the Pelicans kind of be a breakout team, and they might be able to even go on a run. Who knows in today's NBA, right? But getting a sign and trade for Kyle Lowry, I think, would be a little difficult. It would depend on what the Toronto Raptors' plans are. They just picked top 4, and I know that Masai Ujiri is not the type of person who's gonna try to tank, and neither is their head coach. Like they that's not a team that's gonna try to tank. They had an off year. They weren't playing in front of their home fans. That had a large part to do with it. So I think that, and they're going to be next year. So like that's already confirmed. So I think that Kyle Lowry probably gonna honestly end up sticking around. Like I wouldn't trade him unless you really get something like if Brandon Ingram is available for them. Yeah, hell yeah, trade away Kyle Lowry. But I don't think that's gonna end up happening. I think they got Van Vliet. They got Pascal Siakam, who might even take a step forward this year. I think you stick with Kyle Lowry. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to cost that much, honestly. If they want to go out and get Kyle Lowry, they could probably get him. Not for like that much either. I mean, they want to pay. Lonzo's going to demand $20 million. If they don't want to pay Lonzo $20 million, they can. It's the way the market goes.
Who the fuck is going to pay Lonzo?
The Chicago Bulls, dude. The Chicago Bulls.
Oh my God! Stop! No.
Yes, the Chicago Bulls will. That's who.
I feel so bad for Vucevic and Levine.
Levine. Yeah.
Oh, and Vucevic. Don't forget about Vucevic. Nikola Vucevic. Oh.
Lonzo, they can move on from Lonzo. If they want to bring in Kyle Lowry, they can. I mean, don't forget, they already have Eric Bledsoe. I don't know what Eric Bledsoe's contract situation looks like. That's 2 undersized guards that you would have and everything. So they're 2 kind of dogs. So, I mean, that could be something. Lowry's leadership is good. I think Lowry's leadership would be big. What they would have to do is, if they go that direction, I think they would have to draft a point guard. I think New Orleans would have to draft a point guard and then kind of bring in Lowry to kind of like mold that kid, like develop him. And because they already have some nice pieces around him, that's what I would do if I was. Because if Toronto doesn't bring back Kyle Lowry, you know what's going to happen. They're going to go with Suggs and just let that organization kind of develop that kid, let the culture sink.
That would be an amazing. I think you're right when you said that. It's an amazing fit
in heaven right there, dude.
And
that's
it's such a
right there.
Yeah,
basically get a bigger, younger version of Kyle Lowry is basically what they're getting if they get Suggs.
I agree. Anything else, Andrew, before we sign off? We covered a lot today.
We did.
Yeah.
What else did I want to say?
Wait. I'm sorry. Can we talk, since he's asked I think this is going to be our last thing we do. He has a request here. Can we talk about the Bengals so I feel accepted? Let's talk about the Bengals. Why the fuck did you guys pass on Penei Sewell? That was the dumbest decision you guys are going to make. Joe Burrow's going to break his leg. He's going to break his knee. You guys are going to suck. You guys are going to go 2-14 again. Picked up in the draft, and then Joe Burrow's going to be ruined. Boom. Just talked about the Bengals.
Listen, who did they draft? They drafted who? Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase, they got his college wide receiver. Look, again, Jamar Chase, great player, but come on.
Just have him run crossing routes, slant routes, and stop and goes that require Joe Burrow to get rid of the ball within 2 to 3 seconds. Not even just that require Joe Burrow to get rid of the ball within 2 to 3 seconds, and you're good.
Oh, you mean the Joe Flacco special? Like, yeah. You just slant routes and crossing routes all day. That's all Joe Flacco would ever do. And then, like, 4 times a game, just throw it deep.
That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. They already have the chemistry. Fuck it. That's all you got to do. And then that way you eliminate the big hits that Joe Burrow will take. That's it.
Dude, I don't know, man. That division, if it was any other division, I would have been fine with it. You're playing in the AFC North, though. Like, Penei Sewell.
Pittsburgh's defense not going to be as good as
TJ Watt's still there, though. TJ Watt's still there. He's still dominant.
Watt. People don't.
And
I know a lot of people.
Pittsburgh and Baltimore, they develop defensive players out of nowhere like nobody else.
Without like, I don't know if Cam Hayward's going to be back, but people don't realize, as good as TJ Watt was, his production dropped when Bud Dupree went down. Like
that's true. That is true.
They played off of each other. Like, Dupree might not have been the same player without Watt. Watt was not the same player without Bud Dupree, though. So
that's fair, but I mean, you still have Baltimore to worry about, and dude, dude.
Oh yeah, Myles
Garrett and that Brown. Ooh, they got better this offseason.
Talking about, you just got Myles Garrett to worry about. Clowney's not going to do shit.
They got better. They got better though. That's the thing though. Even the Browns got better. Like,
Clowney's.
I'm sorry, Cincy. You guys. They should have
talks mad shit for a guy who hasn't recorded a tackle since fucking like 2018, dude. Let's be honest.
I love the salty Andrew. Literally, the last thing we'll do. Your thoughts on Jadeveon Clowney's tenure as a Titan?
Dude, he shouldn't be talking any fucking shit, dude. He's out here talking shit. He's out here talking shit as if, like, the organization did him wrong. He showed up. He held out. So when he showed up, he wasn't in shape. He got injured because he didn't fucking show up until a week before the season started. And then he wants to sit up here and talk about how the defense. He wants to talk about how the coordinator, I'm with a real organization now with a real defensive coordinator. Shut the fuck up, dude. He hasn't recorded a tackle since fucking 2018. He's talking shit. No, get the fuck out of here.
Okay. To be fair, I think he has to have recorded a tackle since 20. I mean, look, I get the sentiments. Like, the dude is just injury prone and he doesn't show up. Like, let's see here. So here we go. This is number 1 overall pick, Jadeveon Clowney. In 2014, he had. Oh, Andrew, you might be right about this. In 4 games he appeared and he was injured. 7 tackles, no sacks. 2015, 4.5 sacks. 2016, 6 sacks. 2017 with the Texans had his best year with 9.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Last year in Houston, he had 9 sacks and then regressed as a Seahawk with only 3. 8 games as a Titan, not a single freaking sack.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. He's out here talking shit. Talking about, it was the defensive scheme. Listen, how the fuck was our interior fucking, how was our nose tackle fucking Jeffrey Simmons? How the fuck was Jeffrey Simmons able to get to the quarterback? I watched fucking Will Compton sack the quarterback a few times. How the fuck were those guys able to sack the quarterback? But you're supposed to be the big name fucking dude with the dreads hanging out of your fucking helmet, and you can't record one? They're not game planning for you.
I love the salt, and if you want to hear Andrew's salt even more, be sure to subscribe so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Real Take Sports Talk every single Thursday. Next week, got the NBA draft special. We'll be live streaming the draft and all that kind of stuff, talking about it, breaking it down, having our thing. Hopefully, Johnny will be here. We'll be in our big suits. That's next week, right here on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button as well. Real Take Wrestle Talk. If you're a wrestling fan, join us. Join the movement. Real Take Wrestle Talk live on Tuesday nights. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us at Real Take Sports. You can follow Andrew on Twitter at his little Twitter right there. If you can even figure out how that thing is spelled, good luck to you. If you can, if you can't, you're just like the rest of us. Last parting thought, since the edit says, I agree with Andrew. And I'm assuming it's about the Jadeveon Clowney thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Sam Hubbard over Clowney, says since he edits. Big time. Andrew, say bye to the people. Your parting thoughts, whatever.
I got nothing. I let it all out.
I think we let a lot out. 2 hours and 25 minutes of just letting it out. We will be back next week with our draft special at Real Take Sports on Twitter. Again, patreon.com/Real Take Sports. If you want to help out, if you can't, that's fine. Hit that like button as well. Subscribe. We will see you next week for our NBA live special.